Okay then. I hope you all can see the screen. Let's start off from where we stopped last week. Just to quickly recap what we did last week, we said that in management accounting there are many functions, and in order to achieve those functions, we classify costs using various bases. And then we went on to understand what is the cost classification for inventory valuation. Make either. So the plan for today is cost classification for short-term decision making or cost classification based on cost behavior. Cost classification for decision making. In addition to that, I would be doing cost estimation techniques that is related to this area. If time permits, we can start cost assignment. All right. If time permits, we can start cost assignment. Cost assignment hopefully absorption costing all right. We can either continue or stop. So let's start off with cost classification for short-term decision making. Now, in this, cost is classified into 4. All right. In cost classification for short-term decision making, cost is classified into 4. Out of which these 2 are pure classifications. All right, pure classifications, and these 2 are mixed classifications. Either pure classifications and mixed classifications. Area simple area. So I think we would be able to go through it very fast. All right. So the first type of cost classification under first type of cost under cost classification for short-term decision making or cost classification based on cost behavior. Make cost behavior kiyane mokadda? Cost behavior kiyane, what they mean by cost behavior is how costs behave with the level of output. All right, how costs behave with the level of output. Output වැඩි වෙද්දි cost වලට මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ? Output අඩු වෙද්දි cost එකට මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ? Output වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැති වෙලාවන් වල cost එකට මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ? That's what we mean by cost behavior. All right. So the main basis on differentiating between variable cost, fixed cost, and semi-fixed, semi-variable cost. I said that we can't call it semi-fixed cost because technically in English it doesn't make sense because the cost partially varies there. It's not partially fixed. All right. And then the final one is the step cost or step fixed cost. So the main underlying basis of classifying those as 4 is how those costs behave with the level of output. We can see that illustrated in the graphs and all. Okay. So the first one is variable cost. Yes. So variable cost kiyane cost which varies in direct proportion with the level of output. Output venas veddi in direct proportion to that the cost also will change. All right. Kiyamuko then something like this. Let's start off with variable cost. Meva dannawa, so let's not make waste too much time on this. So when the units are 0, total variable cost is always 0. Either when the units are 0, total variable cost is always 0. and there is no AVC as well. AVC එකකුත් නැහැ. I think මේක 0 divided by 0. When the units increase by 1, let's say එකකින් වැඩි වුණා, දෙකකින් වැඩි වුණා, තුනකින් වැඩි වුණා, total variable cost increases in a fixed proportion. Let's say variable cost per unit is 10, average variable cost will be 10 then here variable cost will increase in a fixed proportion. If we are showing this in a graph, it will look like something like this. Yeah, this is how it would look in a graph. When units are increasing, variable cost increases in a linear and in direct proportion to the increase in the number of units. AVC is always constant. So may exam make MCQ hinda, the ideal way I believe they would test this graph එක දීලා මේ graph එක මොකක්ද කියලා අහයි. All right, what does this graph represent? Is it a fixed cost, is it a variable cost, or what is it? හරිද? AVC කියන්නේ it's a straight line. මෙතන මෙන් පෙන්නුවට it's a straight line. Okay, එන මේ කැලල තමයි AVC එක. Average variable cost curve එකයි fixed cost curve එකයි it's similar. ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා fixed cost curve එකත් it's straight line. I don't know why they are showing it this way. Yeah, it's a straight line. Okay, එතකොට දැන් exam එකේ දුන්නා නම් මේ වගේ curve එකක් දීලා straight line එකක් දීලා determine say which type of cost behavior is depicted by this curve කියලා දුන්නා නම් the way to find that out is in this axis they would have marked AC කියලා, average cost කියලා. Average variable cost is straight line and total fixed cost is straight line. Total cost TC කියලා තිබ්බනම් is a fixed cost curve. AC කියලා තිබ්බනම් is a average variable cost curve. That's the way to determine. So this one is done. And then the next one is fixed cost. Fixed cost කියන්නේ like I said the cost which does not vary with the level of output. So when the cost is 0, even when the cost is 0, total fixed cost exists. Let's say factory rent. Even if we produce or do not produce, we have to pay factory rent. Regardless of how many units we produce, either කොච්චරක් produce කරාට, again regardless of how much you produce, total fixed cost remains the same. Either regardless of how much produced, total fixed cost remains the same. Average fixed cost behaves in something the behavior of this curve we call a rectangular hyperbola. Either it looks like something like this. No, it's not showing here. It looks like something like this. Okay, yeah, average fixed cost or unit fixed cost looks like a rectangular hyperbola. It reduces as the level of output increases, but it never becomes 0. Average fixed cost as 0 units, it does not exist, and regardless of how many units we produce, it never becomes 0. Make curve එක මෙතන touch වෙන්නේ. Those are the two things you have to remember with regards to fixed cost. Then the next one is semi-variable cost and mixed cost. Semi-variable cost and step fixed cost. Those two we call them mixed costs. Those two we call them mixed costs. Semi-variable cost කියන්නේ මේ වගේ. දැන් අපිට තියෙනවා electricity bill එක. Electricity bill එකේ you know that there is a fixed charge. regardless of how much electricity we use, අපි fixed rental එකක් ගෙවන්න ඕනේ. Same with the telephone. All right. So that fixed portion is there in the total cost. Electricity bill 1000. There is a fixed cost portion. All right, which is let's say 200, and there is a variable cost portion that varies according to the amount of electricity we consume. All right, so that's what average, that's what we call semi-fixed, semi-variable cost. I'm sorry, semi-variable cost කියන්නේ cost which partially varies with the level of output. Semi-variable cost කියන්නේ cost which partially varies with the level of output. It has both a fixed portion as well as a variable portion, and when the output changes, only the variable portion changes. So I can show you. It would be something like this. This is how semi-variable cost looks like. The fixed portion is this. It always remains fixed regardless of the level of output. And the variable portion is what which varies the level of output. The next one is step fixed cost. Step fixed cost කියන්නේ it's something like this. Now let's say in order to produce 1000 units, we need a certain machine, and the depreciation of that machine is a fixed cost. That depreciation is, let's say, 500,000. After producing 1000 units, you have to buy a new machine. So from the point where we are producing the 1001st unit, either the total fixed cost or the total depreciation increases from 500,000 to 1 million. ඇයි අපි තව අලුත් machine එකක් purchase කරන්න ඕනේ? Previous machine එකේ depreciation එක 500,000 නම් අලුත් machine එකේ 500,000. Therefore, the cost would increase in the same amount. Let me, yeah. It would look something like this. Until a certain level of activity, the cost would remain fixed. After a certain level, the cost would increase by a fixed proportion, and then it would go on increasing like that. Examples for these are, like I said, depreciation of factory rent. Let's say a factory comprises of 4 compartments. We have rented out 1 compartment. As we increase production, produce more and more and more, all right, we have to rent out more and more compartments. Then කියමුකෝ 500 units වෙනකන් එක compartment එක හදන්න පුළුවන්. මෙතන 500. When you are producing the 501st unit, you have to rent out the next compartment. එතකොට cost එක මේ මෙතනින් 400,000 එකෙන් එකපාරට 800,000 එකට වැඩි වෙයි. All right, if it's the same amount, the rent is the same amount. After producing another 500 units, then it would increase by the same amount again. So that's how the step cost behaves. Make a simple area එකක්. මේක ඉතින් ඔක්කොමලාම දන්න එකක්. Let's not waste more time on this. Let's go to cost estimation techniques. Okay, yeah, it says here up to a certain level of activity, fixed costs remain constant, and if that level of activity exceeds, additional fixed costs would be required. Make a නැතුව අපි කෙලින්ම යන් මේකට cost estimation techniques එකට. This is a very testable area in the exam, highly testable, especially in MCQs අපිට test කරන්න පුළුවන්. අපි ඒක පටන් ගමු. හරි. Cost estimation techniques. Why do we need something called a cost estimation technique? You know that just now we established that costs exist based on their behavior in these four forms. These two forms are pure costs. We call them pure forms, and these two are variable forms. Now this classification was based on base for short-term decision making. Short-term decision make කරන්න තමයි අපි මේම cost classify කරන්න කියලා අපි ඉගෙන ගන්නවා. I want to narrow your focus into one area in short-term decision making. Short-term decision making එක area එකට ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ focus එක narrow කරන්න. That would be the CVP analysis. A level එකේ අපි කරලා තියෙනවා. අපි BEP හොයන එක. If you all remember, we calculated BEP as total fixed cost divided by contribution per unit. Contribution එක අපි define කරේ selling price minus variable cost per unit කියලා. නේද? So this is one of the or most, I would say, the most major area when it comes to short-term decision making where this classification is used. All right. Make a පාවිච්චි කරන තැන අපි ඔක්කොම දන්නවා we can determine the level of output we need to produce given a certain fixed cost, given a target profit. We can determine what our variable cost per unit should be given certain fixed cost, given target profit. We can determine what our selling price could be given other factors. We could determine how much should our fixed cost be, or how much would our profit be. You can play around with this a lot. All right. Now, in order to do this, we can't have costs in their mixed forms. Make karanda, like I said, I want to narrow your focus towards this. We can't have costs in their mixed form. That is, we can't have costs as semi-variable and step fixed when we are doing this. එක තේරෙනවනේ මෙතන මේ area එකේ semi-variable cost ko step fixed cost include karanda, there is no space. Therefore, what we have to do is, mainly when it comes to the semi-variable cost, we have to separate the fixed portion of the semi-variable cost and the variable portion of the semi-variable cost, and you separate them, and then we can use them in our calculations. So that's the main objective when it comes to this cost estimation techniques. This is to separate the fixed and variable portion of semi-variable cost. Hi, I hope you all understood what we are about to learn now. Cost estimation techniques කියන එකෙන් අපි ඉගෙන ගන්න යන්නේ මෙන්න මේක තමයි. Separating the fixed and variable portion of semi-variable cost. Now, we learn in professional courses three methods. Three methods තමයි අපි basically ඉගෙන ගන්න professional courses වල. But in our course, they have included two more methods. Two more methods include කරලා තියෙනවා. A methods දෙකම I wouldn't say it's relevant to a management accountant. They have included certain engineering related or technical areas where we observe the production process and motion work and all those stuff, and you determine this separation. But let's focus on the two methods which would be important for us as management accountants. Management accounting subject එකට relevant areas දෙකේ අපි mainly focus එක මේව කරනවා. හරිද? Those things. Here we have the cost estimation methods. First one is the engineering method, then the inspection of accounts method, graphical or scatter graph method, and the high-low method. These two would be the areas which we would be diverting our focus to mainly. And this one, inspection of accounts method, I would say that before doing these two, මෙහෙම divide කරගන්න ඉස්සර මේ methods ටික apply කරන්න ඉස්සර we could do this as a prepare කරන්න මේ methods ටික පාවිච්චි කරන්න ඉස්සර අපි preparation එකක් හැටියට මේ method එක පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා මම හිතනවා. Engineering method it's out of our scope I believe. Okay. So the engineering method is where they use engineering analyze on the use of engineering analysis of technological relationship between input and outputs, method study, work sampling, time and motion study, examples of engineering method. All right, you just remember this for now. I don't think we can get a better understanding of this area. Knowledge, I don't think we can. Inspection of accounts method එක වෙන්නේ simple thing. They would take all the accounts. ඕනම business එක ledger accounts තියෙනවානේ. ඒ ledger accounts එක ඔක්කොම list කර ගන්නවා. They will have something called, I don't remember the name. Ledger accounts list එකට නමක් තියෙනවා. All the ledger accounts of the business they would take, and then each account they would go on identifying based on cost behavior. Are those accounts fixed cost accounts? Are those accounts variable cost accounts? Or are those accounts semi-fixed cost accounts? Or step cost accounts? හරිද? ඒ වගේ ඒගොල්ලෝ identify කරලා ඒක මේ note down කරනවා. That's basically it. හරිද? They inspect the accounts and they classify them as either fixed, variable, semi-fixed, or step fixed. We have an activity here, and it's saying that classify above cost into variable and fixed. We can quickly do this as well. How do I? Following cost information has been obtained from latest monthly accounts for an output level for 10,000 units per cost center. They have given this cost and then required to classify those costs into variable and cost into variable and fixed. So direct materials should be a variable cost. Direct labor is a variable cost. That's make the method data. Indirect labor is also variable cost. We could say depreciation is a fixed cost. Repair and maintenance, we can say it's a fixed cost. Departmental manager of the account inspected each item of expenditure and came into the following conclusions. Direct material and direct labor costs are varying with direct proportion of units. Observe they classify these both as variable costs. Indirect labor and depreciation costs are fixed. Then regardless of the number of units, number of units cost list in Excel it says they can find out the nature of the curve graph and they can name, they can say that this is a fixed cost or a variable cost account. Third point is the fixed element of repairs and maintenance 5,000. So in repairs and maintenance account, the fixed cost, fixed proportion is 5,000, and there is a variable proportion of 5,000. Therefore, it's a semi-variable cost. This is a very simple method. Let's now go into this method, graphical or scatter graph method. Graphical නැත්නම් scatter graph method එකේ වෙන්නේ මේකයි. They will plot the cost in a scatter graph. They have units and you have costs. Units මෙහෙම තියෙයි. Cost තියෙයි. Like this. Okay, now they will get this information. Main information එක ගන්නවා. හරිද? ledger account එකෙන් ගන්නවා. After that they make a plot කරනවා scatter graph එක. Scatter graph එකේ plot කරා නම් it would look something like this. හරිද? Let's take better information. So it would be easier. Let's take this information with you. sorry. 960 should go there. 400 there. Get this information, and then you plot it in a scatter graph. It would look something like this. After this, there are two ways we can move forward. මේකට පස්සේ scatter graph එකේ මේම දැම්මට පස්සේ අපිට two options දෙකක් තියෙනවා. මෙතනින් එහාට cost එක separate කරන්න fixed and variable කියලා. The first one would be the visual fit method. හරිද? First one කියන්නේ visual fit method. Visual fit method එකේ වෙන්නේ we will use our own judgment. අපි අපේ judgment එක පාවිච්චි කරලා මෙහෙම trend line එකක් අඳිනවා. Judgment. හරිද? No calculations involved. We will use our own judgment and draw a trend line like this. And based on the trend line, we will find out how much is the fixed cost. So let's do it, William. අපි එක කරමුකෝ. We can draw a trend line like this. Let's say it's going like this now. One more over here. No, that wouldn't be right. මේ වගේ trend line එකක් අඳිනවා. හරිද? It would be a straight line. And then මෙතනින් අපි හොයාගන්නවා fixed cost එක කොච්චරද කියලා. හරිද? ඒ fixed cost එක කොච්චරද කියලා හොයාගෙන ඒක මෙන්න මෙතන කොයි හරි එක තැනකට substitute කරනවා. All right? ඒක මෙන්න මෙතන කොයි හරි more it would be better මෙතන වැඩියෙන්ම units තියෙන activity level එක වැඩියෙන්ම තියෙන තැනට substitute කරන්න. දැන් කියමුකෝ මෙතනින් අපි identify කරා මේක ඇවිල්ලා 430ක් කියලා fixed cost එක. So now the fixed cost portion of this cost account හරිද? මේ cost item එක නැත්නම් මේ cost account එකේ fixed cost portion එක අපි based on this visual fit method we identified as around let's say 450 value 450 කියලා. What can we do next is we can substitute. All right, when the number of units are, let's say the highest one is 480, the total cost is 1200. Out of this 1200, 450 is fixed. So this 750 is the variable cost portion. So if it's 750 total variable cost, so because total cost is equal to total fixed cost plus total variable cost, right? Total fixed cost, total cost is 1200, total fixed cost is 450, total variable cost is 750. Therefore, we can determine the variable cost per unit is like this, 1.56. Then you can make a you can feel that it's not 100% accurate now. We are using a judgment. Ape syllabus they teach us to use this method. Even in this question, a method estimate the regression equation using the graphical method. Because scatter graph they are expecting us to find the equation based on our own judgment. Therefore, the more accurate method would be we should use a linear regression analysis. We have learned the least square method and the regression analysis. Regression analysis where we find the relationship between two variables, where one is the dependent and other one is the independent variable. Least square method is one of the methods which comes under regression analysis, where to find the relationship between an independent and dependent variable. So that would be the second method, linear regression. Either it's not in our syllabus. Our equations tika apita mataka ඇති a equals equation එකයි b equals equation එක දාලා we will find out the y equals a plus bx කියන එක අපි හොයාගන්නවා. මෙතනත් අපි හොයාගත්තේ ඒකමයි. y equals 1.56 plus sorry, y equals 1.56x plus 450 කියන එක තමයි අපි මෙතන හොයාගත්තේ. හරිද? So we can substitute මේ x එකට ඕනම amount එකක් substitute කරලා we can work around, we can do that CVP calculation, any other calculations අපිට කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ equation එක තියාගෙන. හරිද? Then the second method is the linear regression analysis. ඒකෙ වෙන්නේ how do you yeah they would draw a chart like this. හරිද? මේම trend line එකක් අඳිනවා. trend line එක ඇඳලා linear equation එක මම මෙතන මේ වෙනම හොයන්න උගන්වන්නේ නැහැ, but this would be the accurate equation. හරිද? linear regression analysis එක පාවිච්චි කරා නම් least square method එක පාවිච්චි කරා නම් මේක තමයි එන්නේ. So the variable cost per unit would be 2 rupees and 1 cent, and the fixed cost would be 240 rupees. I don't know why we came up with 450 rupees. Fixed cost per unit would be 240 rupees. Yeah, method of 240 rupees. I don't know how we came up with 450. මේ line එක ඇඳ නම් මේකනේ අපේ information එක මේ line එක ඇඳ නම් it would come around at 240. Then this would be 2 rupees. මේක 240. All right, so that's the graphical method එකෙන් වෙන්නේ ඒකයි. The next one is the high or low method. This I believe would be the area which would be mostly tested in our exam. It's a very simple method, but if we are ranking based on accuracy, හරිද? accuracy එක මත අපි rank කරනවා නම් the most accurate would be the least square. The method, it would be the most accurate method. The second one would be the high low method. The third most accurate method would be this, or the least accurate method එක තමයි මේ visual fit method එක තියෙන්නේ. Yeah, so high low method එක වෙන්නේ මේකයි. Just do it with the question itself. මේ question එකත් එක්කම කරමු. Question again කියනවා, the monthly recordings for outputs and maintenance costs for the past 12 months have been examined and the following information has been extracted. Either estimate the variable cost and fixed cost using the high low method. There are certain steps we should follow when we are using the high low method. The first one would be to inspect past records. Either we are we are separating and finding the fixed and variable cost portions of semi-variable costs using past records. A past records tika api examine karala. That will be the first step. We have to determine the period in which there was the highest activity level. Mona awuruddeda නැත්නම් mona මාසෙද we observe the highest activity level. වැඩියෙන්ම produce කරේ මොන මාසෙද? හරිද? මොන අවුරුද්දේද මොන මාසෙද වැඩියෙන්ම produce කරේ. And you note down what is the activity level and what is the cost at that activity level. The next step would be to find out what is the period where we recorded the lowest activity level. The period which we recorded the lowest activity level, and then we will note down the volume or the outputs and then the cost in that period. All right. Then we will apply a formula which looks something like this. In the මේ වගේ formula එකක් first apply කරනවා to find the variable cost per unit. Let's move on to a question. එතකොට මේක question එකක් තුලින්ම we can explain. Let's do this question. Let me give you all 3 minutes to try it by yourselves. All right, අපි make කරමු. Please note that මේ high low method එකේ මේ exact steps ටික follow කරන්න ඕනේ. You can't pick any period or any place from here. It has to be the highest period and the total cost in the highest period. It has to be the lowest period and the total cost in the lowest period. එහෙම තමයි variable cost එක හොයාගන්න ඕනේ. ඊට පස්සේ fixed cost එක substitute කරන්න ඕනේ at the activity level in the highest period. එහෙම කරේ නැත්නම් you get different answers ලැබුණා නම් your answer would be wrong. Therefore stick to the process steps වලට stick කරන්න. Okay, all right. See you. No. Okay. So first let's inspect the records. We have inspected. If we inspect, we can see that the number of patients is at its highest in period 3. The number of patients are at its highest in period 3. And then we'll note down period 3. 1310 is the activity level or the number of patients, and the cost at that level is 1,865,000. Then we should find out the period at which the activity is at its lowest. Formula. Okay, that would be period 1. Period 1 activity level like 700, and the cost is 1,712,500. All right, then we have to find the variable cost per unit. You know that when making 700 again 1310 eකට change වෙද්දී when the number of patients are changing, this cost is changing, and the reason for that change is because of the variable cost. Fixed cost එක in the change වෙන්නේ නැහැනේ. Fixed cost would always remain constant. Therefore may change the change of 610 patients is because of variable costs. May cost change because of this number of patients. So we have to improve the formula. What is it? The cost at the highest activity level minus the cost at the lowest activity level. All right, divided by the number of units or the activity level at the highest activity level during the period of the highest activity level minus the lowest activity level. This would be the variable cost per unit. It is this formula. Now since we have the variable cost per unit, we have from this equation we have 250 x 250x. Now we need to find out how much is the TFC. In order to do this, we have to substitute the highest activity level. මෙතන මේ x එකට substitute කරන්න ඕනේ highest activity level එකයි y එකට ගන්න ඕනේ මේ highest activity level එකේ තියෙන cost එකයි. හරිද? So the cost at the highest activity level would be this one minus, right, 250 into this one. This is the variable cost. This is the total cost. Difference between total variable cost and the total cost would be the total fixed cost. So this is the total fixed cost. Hi there. Now what does the question ask us? If 900 patients are predicted, you can see how we make decisions. We make classification a short-term decision making. You can see how we use this method, or how we use this cost classification to make short-term decisions like this. They're asking us if 900 patients are predicted for the period 6, estimate total cost of the hospital for the period 6 using the high-low method. Another thing I have to emphasize is decision making cost classification karaddi, most of the instances it's not 100% accurate, regardless of using the linear regression analysis or high-low method or visual fit method. ඕන method එක පාවිච්චි කරාට අපිට semi variable cost එකේ fixed portion එකයි variable portion එකයි accurately කඩන්න බෑ. හරිද? So we are finding something close to being accurate. That's not a problem. එහෙම තියලා decision make කරා කියලා ලොකු වෙනසක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Bear that in mind, because we know in accounting අපි හැම වෙලේම we have used this double entry system and arithmetic accuracy එකක් අපි හැම වෙලේම බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. ඒක මේ area එකකින් නැහැ. හරිද? So they're asking us to estimate the total cost when in period 6 when there are 900 patients. We know that the total fixed cost is this one. Total fixed cost. And then we need the total variable cost. How do we get the total variable cost? It is variable cost per unit multiplied by number of units, or let's say activity level units. You can use anything interchangeable. මෙතන number of units are 900. So it would be 900 multiplied by this variable cost per unit. So the total cost would be this 1,762,500. You see it's in line with this information as well. 990 එකට වඩා අඩුයි, 700 එකට වඩා වැඩි. Therefore it's in line with the information we have. All right, let's move to the next question. This is also an area which could be tested for us, because අපිට step cost කියන එක උගන්වලා තියෙනවා. Step cost තියෙද්දී how do you separate the variable portion and the fixed portion of semi variable cost කියන එක we haven't done it in our lecture series, I believe. මේකත් අපි මෙතනින් ගෙනවා. I give you all 2-3 minutes to try this out on your own. හරි අපි මේක කරමු දැන් මෙතන දීලා තියෙන්නේ similar information but the difference is මේ එක activity level එකකට පස්සේ there is this step fixed cost. So we are required to do the same thing. අපි මේ equation එක හොයාගන්න එක තමයි කරන්නේ. We have to do the same thing while dealing with the step fixed cost as well. Either now it's like this. When the units are 12,750, either the total cost is 15,100. No, 73,950. This 73,950, since this is a semi-variable cost. Semi-variable cost එක තමයි අපි කඩන්නේ හැම වෙලේම. Cost estimation techniques. Since this is a semi-variable cost, there is a total fixed cost portion as well as a total variable cost portion. All right. මේ 73,950 එක ඇතුලේ තියෙනවා. අපි curve එක ගන්නනේ මතකයි. Let me draw that curve again. Something like this we drew like. This is there is this fixed portion as well as there is this variable portion as well inside this 73,950. What happens when the number of units increases to 15,100? The cost increases to 83,585. This is the way we solve this. මේක තමයි මේක solve කරන විදිය. This is the best way. There are two ways. මේ way එක we can use in any instance. අනිත් way එක you can't use in any instance. We need to have three information. ඒ කියන්නේ previous තුනක informations තියෙද්දි අපි මේ ඒක let's not go into that. Right. Now inside this 83,585, what are the costs available? Make ඇතුලේ තියෙන cost portions ටික මොකක්ද? It says here when more than 14,000 square meters are industrially clean, there will be a step up fixed cost of 4,700. මේ 14,000 එකට පස්සේ මේ 14,000 එක වෙනකම් මෙහෙම යන cost එක 14,000 එකට පස්සේ මෙහෙම එක it would make a leap jump එකක් කරයි උඩට. It would increase by 4,700 fixed cost එක. Therefore inside this 83,585, there is a total fixed cost, there is a total variable cost, and there is a step fixed cost portion as well. Step cost කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන් එකට. There is a total fixed cost, there is a total variable cost, and there is a step cost. Either. So in order to solve this, what we can do is we can remove the step cost portion out of this 83,585. After we remove that, we would end up with just this, right? It would end up with total fixed cost and total variable cost portion. Something similar to this. මෙතන කරපු එකට similar එකක් තමයි we would end up with after we remove the step cost portion from this 83,585. අපි ඒක මුලින් කරමු. From this one has a step cost of 4,700. So let's remove that step cost from this 83,000. Then me 78,885 ඇතුලේ තියෙන්නේ variable cost and fixed cost විතරයි. Step cost එක ගලවලා තියෙන්නේ. So we can use the same method which we used here. Firstly, find the variable cost per unit and then find the fixed cost after that. In order to find the variable cost per unit, you have to take the cost at the highest activity level minus. Let's assume that may the information they have inspected the accounts. I'm stressing on this because api exam ekedi let's say periods 3-4 information dunnama samara kattiya they would use any period nikan ekak thorala variable cost එක හොයාගන්න. That's why I'm stressing this. It has to be the cost at the highest activity level and the highest activity level, and then the cost at the lowest activity level and the lowest activity level. Making make adu kara, then we will get the change in total cost. We will divide from that, making make adu. So 2.1 is the variable cost per unit. දැන් අපි කරන්න තියෙන්නේ cost at the highest activity level. 15100 එකේ තියෙන total cost එකෙන් අපි මේ ගාන ගැලවුවනේ. මේ මේකෙන් අපි we can substitute, or it's okay if we substitute here as well here, but let's do it for this from this itself. 78,000 is the total cost. All right, minus, let's remove the total variable cost both, that is 2.1 into 15,100. So this would be the total fixed cost. This variable cost per unit. We can then use the formula. A formula එකේ මේක දාන්න පුළුවන් for PC equals 47,175 plus 2.1x කියලා. But the question asks us to estimate the total cost if 14,500 square meters are to be industrially clean. So it would be 14,500 into this 2.1. This would be the variable cost. Make it add karanna one fixed cost එක. 14,500 units multiplied by variable cost per unit, and then you add the fixed cost. And when more than 14,000 square meters are industrially clean, may 4,700 step cost ekat include karanna. Therefore, for this we have to add the step cost as well. එතකොට මොකද්ද මේ තියෙන්නේ? In order to produce, in order to clean 14,500 square meters, we have to incur this much of variable cost, this much of fixed cost, either, and this much of a step fixed cost. So that would be 82,325. Okay. Now, I think that's it from this lesson, from cost estimation techniques. Method තියන්නේ, it's a small thing they are trying to teach you all. They are saying that why cost classification based on cost behavior as fixed and variable is only practical in short-term decision making, and it's impractical when it comes to long-term projects. The reason is, let me just hint on this answer. Question let me just hint on this answer, both these answers. The reason is, okay, this classification is based on cost behavior. Cost behavior includes only one element. අපි මේ deal කරන්නේ only one element, two elements. One is cost and other one is output. How does cost behave with regards to output? එච්චරයි අපේ scope. But when it comes to long-term projects, all right, the cost behaves, or the cost is affected by so many things. It's not just output. Let's say in this, they have told this world market prices are changing, technology is changing, that is changing, this is changing. So when it comes to long-term projects, the determinants of cost, or what determines cost, is so much, right? There are so many things. We can say all the macroeconomic forces effects our costs. Therefore, it is difficult to capture all those costs, all those forces, all those macroeconomic forces, environmental forces into one model. අපි මේ කරා වගේ units කියන එක විතරක් capture කරා වගේ costs and units කියන එක විතරක් අපිට මෙහෙ කරන්න බෑ මේ long term projects වල, because there are so many forces affecting costs. That's the learning outcome here. We can't do long term projects based on this classification. We can only use it when it comes to short term classifications, and when the plant is operational, we can develop a cost estimation model, because then it could be production related. We can be estimate cost with regards to output. Either. that's what they have told us here. Maybe they can ask this in MCQ. මම හිතන්නේ end exam එකට මේ වගේ එකක් අහයි කියලා. MCQ එක යහුවනම් you can see that with regards to long term projects or large scale projects, we can't use this cost estimation techniques because it's the forces affecting costs or the determinants of costs are multifarious. We can't capture all those forces into one word. Yes, so to get back to where we are, we have completed this. Now we have completed this, and we have completed another area with regards to this, which is cost estimation. If you all have any questions, then you all can raise them afterwards. In, let's say, in another 2-3 minutes, we can start cost classification for decision making. Cost classification for decision making is like a make or break area. If you are doing accounting, if you are planning on pursuing a career in accounting, or if you want to be a good manager, all right, මේ classification එක දැනගෙනම ඉන්න ඕනේ. මේක තේරුම් ගත්තේ නැත්නම් you can't make decisions, because the classification basis itself is cost classification for decision making, and management accounting is about using information for decision making. If you do not know this, මේක තේරුම් නැත්නම් මේක ඉතින් එකපාරට තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. තේරුම් ගත්ත අයත් මෙතන ඉන්න පුළුවන්නේ. ඒගොල්ලන්ට it would be easy, but if this is the first time you all are learning cost classification for decision making properly, මේක එකපාරටම තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. බොහෝ විට it would take time. There is a certain framework we can follow in our thinking pattern. There is a certain framework we can follow to develop my thinking pattern එක. After a point එක පුරුදු වෙයි. So this is an important area. Even though in our exam and past papers වල නම් දැක්කේ නැහැ මේකේ ප්‍රශ්නයක්. 2017, 18, 19 past papers බැලුවා. There were no questions from these areas, but it's very important. Okay, so let's start this. Let's say another 2-3 minutes. මොන හරි ප්‍රශ්න තිබ්බනම් you can ask me now. අපි මේක පටන් ගමු එහෙනම්. Let me share the screen. please ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ attention එක මේ be focused, try to think with me. මේක මෙතනින්ම grasp කරගන්න හදන්න. Follow with me, okay? මාත් එක හිතන්න පොඩ්ඩක්. Yeah, this is kind of a interesting area as well. Cost classification for decision making. Let's මුලින්ම අපේ මේක management accounting ගැන කතා කරොත් decision making කියන එක short term decision making, long term decision making කියලා දෙකකට කඩනවා. Short term decision making කියන්නේ when we are when we are unable to change fixed capital, ඒ කාලවකවානුව තුළ during that period the decisions we make are short term decisions. Long term decisions are decisions with regard to changing our capacity, fixed capital, fixed assets and all. Now in both those instances we use the same cost classification. Either in both those instances we use the same cost classification. This is the relevant and irrelevant cost classification for decision making. All right, when we take NPV calculations, IRR calculations, when it comes to long-term decision making, we do that using the relevant costs. We only consider relevant costs. When we make decisions such as in the short term, whether to accept customer's order, whether to produce or to buy and sell, decisions such as if you want to, whether it would be profitable if we, let's say we have a phone, we want this phone, we want to add a certain extra feature to the phone. Would it be profitable to add this extra feature and sell, or to sell without that feature? Without that feature, because if you're adding an extra feature, it would be we would have to incur extra cost, and also we can charge a higher price, premium price. But if we do not add this extra feature, then we will not be adding. We would not be incurring extra cost, and also අපි මේකට higher price එක charge කරන්න බෑ. ඒ ඔක්කොම consider කරගෙන මේ වගේ further processing decisions ගන්න පුළුවන්. Likewise, මම හිතන්නේ further processing decision is in our syllabus. Likewise, short term decision making, long term decision making, or any decision in order to make, even in the EOQ calculation, either even in the EOQ calculation එකට ගන්නෙත් අපි relevant cost තමයි. It's an important thing. I don't think many have understood that. In the EOQ calculation, if you see, if you can remember, the minimum stock level we calculate when we are calculating stock level calculate the minimum stock level calculate reorder quantity divided by 2 plus what was it, minimum stock level, so average stock level calculate reorder quantity divided by 2 plus minimum stock level here. That was the formula we use when we are using the stock level calculation. But when we calculated EOQ, we were taught that we assumed that we were taught that we assumed that average stock level is ROQ divided by 2. Either average stock level is ROQ divided by 2, but we didn't assume that. That's actually the practical reasoning, because the holding cost එකට තියෙන holding cost එකට ඒ minimum stock level එක add කරන්න නැති එකට හේතුව minimum stock level එකට අපි ඉංග කරන holding cost එක it's irrelevant to our EOQ decision making, EOQ calculation. අපි කොච්චර order කරන්න ඕනේ කියන decision එකට it's irrelevant to add the holding cost of the minimum stock level. එතනටත් එන්නේ මේ relevant and irrelevant cost classification for decision making එකයි. Therefore, it's a very important area. I hope step by step make gain. Either මේ knowledge එක build කරමු already නැති කට්ටියට. මේ knowledge එක තාම නැති කට්ටියට. Let's start off by defining relevant costs. Either this is how we spell relevant, right? Okay, relevant costs. What are relevant costs? Let me introduce a definition. මේ කොයි වගේ definition එකක් කිව්වොත් අපි මේ definition එක each cost item එකට apply කරා නම් we can determine whether that cost is relevant or not. මේ definition එකේ මම characteristics තුනක් introduce කරනවා. ඒ characteristics තුන if we apply to any cost item we can determine whether that cost is relevant or not. හරිද? So this is the definition. Relevant costs are future cash flows which arise as a direct consequence decision. Right? Relevant costs are future cash flows which arise as a direct consequence of a decision. මෙන්න මේ definition එකෙන් අපිට relevant cost කියන එකට characteristics තුනක් මේව කරන්න පුළුවන්, හඳුනා ගන්න පුළුවන්. Give me a second. All right. The first one is relevant costs are incremental cost කියන එක. හරිද? ඒක derive කරන්නේ මෙන්න මේ කැලේ. ඒ characteristic එක එන්නේ මෙන්න මේ කැලේ. Direct consequence of decision. එක decision එකක් කරන හින්දා තමයි ඒ cost එක arise වෙන්න ඕනේ. decision එකක් ගන්න හින්දා තමයි cost එක arise වෙන්න ඕනේ. එක decision එකක් හින්දා cost එකක් arise වෙද්දී it has to be a incremental cost. හරිද? decision එක කරද්දී the cost is increasing. If we do not make the decision, the cost is not we are not incurring or the cost is not increasing. Therefore, first characteristics of a relevant cost is that it's an incremental cost. Right? Relevant costs are incremental costs. The second characteristic of a relevant cost is that it's a future cost. Relevant cost කියන එක firstly it's an incremental cost. ඒක වැඩි වෙන එකක් වෙන්න ඕනේ. දැන් අපි ඉන්ක කරගෙන යනවා නම් ඒක cost එකක්. අපි එක decision එකක් හින්දා cost එක වැඩි වෙනවා නම් ඒ වැඩි වෙන කැලේ විතරයි relevant cost එකක් වෙන්නේ. හරිද? ඒකට අමතරව the cost which we have already been incurring it's irrelevant to decision making. That's the first one. First characteristics of relevant cost. The second one is it should be a future cost. අපි අනාගතයේ මේක මේ පිළිවෙල දරන්න ඕනේ. It can't be a past cost. Example which is against this characteristics would be the sunk cost. Sunk cost කියන්නේ past cost එකක්. අපි already incur කරපු cost එකක්. Sunk cost would be irrelevant to decision making because it's not a future cost. The third one would be it should be a cash flow. Take a method in here. The cost should be a cash flow. Things such as depreciation is irrelevant when it comes to decision making. Depreciation is irrelevant to decision making because it's not a cash flow. Things like notional rent. Notional cost cost category that is something we allocate just to see the actual performance. We have an own building, we are not paying rent, but in order to find let's say the profit figure of the building, we include a notional rent. Rent එක ගෙවුවා නම් කොච්චරක් අපේ මේ cost තියේද කොච්චරක් profit තියේද කියලා we include notional rent. That also happens when it comes to responsibility accounting. Managers letter, if they are not incurring certain costs, but if we do not have certain resources, let's say a building or something like that, we allocate a certain notional cost to them. Notional rent එකක් දානවා, notional depreciation දානවා. ඒ වගේ කරලා we calculate profits and costs and all. Those notional costs are not cash flows, therefore they are irrelevant when it comes to decision making. Now, may characteristics තුනම තියෙන්න ඕනේ for a cost item to be relevant when it comes to decision making. A cost, a certain cost item should have all these three characteristics in order for it to be a relevant cost for decision making. Let's look at the examples for relevant cost first. What are the examples for relevant costs? I have it here. All right. The first one is avoidable cost. හරිද? අපිට approaches දෙකක් තියෙනවා. අපිට එක්කෝ මෙන්න මේ categories වලට දාන්න පුළුවන්. මේ හැම cost එකම මේ categories වලට දාලා මේ categories or these categories. This three or these three එකට classify කරලා then we can determine whether if it's relevant or not. එක approach එකක්. Or else any cost item we can send them through these three features. මේ three features ටික හොයන්න පුළුවන් තියනවාද කියලා. මේ තුනම තිබ්බොත් we can say it's a relevant cost. This is an easy approach, but as we progress මේක පුරුදු වුණ ගමන් මේක ඇඟට උරා ගන්න පුළුවන්. දැක්ක ගමන් කියන්න පුළුවන් this relevant, this irrelevant කියලා. ඒ අවස්ථාවවල we don't follow this framework. We usually මෙන්න මෙහෙම තමයි හිතන්න පුරුදු වෙන්නේ. When we look at a cost item, this is avoidable, this is specific, this is a specific fixed cost, it's relevant. ඒ වගේ තමයි හිතන්න පුරුදු වෙන්නේ. But I would suggest as an initial framework හිතන්න එක cost එකක් relevant නැද්ද කියලා මෙන්න මේක follow කරන්න. cash flow එකක්ද කියලා බලන්න, අනාගතේ ඉන්ක කරන එකක්ද කියලා බලන්න, whether if it's an incremental, only the incremental portion එක ගන්න. හරිද? The first one is the avoidable cost. guys ටිකේ බලමු. Just do these questions. I like I said, past papers වල හොයාගන්න බැරි වුණා මට. එහෙනම් මෙතන මේ lesson එක වෙනකන් විතරක් let's do these questions, and from the next onwards lesson onwards cost estimation, cost assignment again idam we can do past papers. Okay. Avoidable cost is one example for relevant costs. Avoidable cost, that is the cost which can be saved by not adopting a given alternative. අපි එක decision එකක් make කරනවා. Let's say we are making a decision to whether or not we are trying to decide whether or not to accept a certain customer's order. Either customer ke order එක accept කරා නම් we have to hire this person to come and design this product. Customer ke order එක if we accept, we have to hire a person to come and design work එක කරන්න එක්කෙනෙක්ව hire කරන්න ඕනේ. හරිද? customer ke order එක accept කරේ නැත්නම් we do not have to hire that person. එහින්දා those kinds of costs we can say those are avoidable. Either we can avoid by not deciding to accept the customer's order. Either unavoidable කියන්නේ most of the time those would arise from contractual or legal instances, legal rights වලින් arise වෙන එක තමයි මේ unavoidable cost කියන්නේ. Now let's say we have rented a certain building and we entered into a contract. අපි මේ අවුරුදු 3කට rent ගෙවනවා කියලා. Regardless of any decision we make in the organization, alright, මේ ආයතනයේ ඕනම decision එකක් make කරද්දී මේ අපේ rent එක we can never take it as a relevant cost, because regardless of any decision we make, that cost is unavoidable. We are legally obligated to pay rent. Or if not, if make it මේ පොඩ්ඩක් complex වෙනවා මේ area එක, if the contract includes penalty charge or penalty charge එකක් තිබ්බනම් එතකොට we can consider based on our decision, it's getting a bit complicated, yeah, based on our decision whether we consider penalty charge into as a relevant cost or not. It's not going to there, but think mostly like legal situations where we have to pay rent, we have to purchase this from a customer because supplier, because we have entered into agreement, we have to purchase certain machinery from a person because we have contracted with him and said, okay, you make the machine, we will buy them. Later on we can't say that no, we don't want because we have changed our decision. Those costs are irrelevant when it comes to decision making. Let's start with this question then. Please try this question on your own. Let's take 2 minutes for you all to try this question on your own, and then we can determine, we can move forward. මේ questions ටික කරලා then we would be finished with costs. Second lesson එක we would be completed. All right. අපි එක attempt කරමු එහෙනම්. Question number 1 says ABC company purchased 20,000 worth of raw materials few years ago. Currently, there is no possibility of selling these materials or using them in future production. Recently, a customer saw these materials at the company premises and requested the company to sell those materials to him. However, this customer is not prepared to pay more than 12,000. The additional cost of 5,000 would be required to change this material according to the customer requirement. අපි කාව 20,000 materials තියෙනවා. ඒ materials තියාගෙන අපිට මොකුත් කරන්න බෑ. We have no use of those materials. But Monday a customer comes and asks us, okay, I'll buy these materials in this condition, this particular condition. ඔයාගාව තියෙන condition එකේ නෙමෙයි පොඩි changes ටිකක් කරලා මට දෙන්න. I will pay you 12,000 rupees. හරිද? Now we have to decide. මෙතන තමයි අපි decision එක make කරන්න ඕනේ. මේ customer ගේ order එක accept කරමුද එපාද කියලා. Let's say based on the historical cost figures we have, we make this decision. අපි මේ relevant cost කියන දන්නේ නැති එක්කෙනෙක් මේ historical figures තියාගෙන මේව decision එකක් make කරනවා. 12,000 rupees customer ගෙවනවා කිව්වා. Is the sales customer 12,000 rupees ගෙවනවා. අපි raw materials වලට incur කරලා තියෙනවා 20,000 already. Then we also have to incur another 5,000 api to change, what do you call processing කියලා කියමු, processing cost. Processing වලට 5,000 තව incur කරන්න ඕනේ. Now a person who has no knowledge of this relevant costing framework, they would say, oh, අපි cost incur කරලා තියෙනවා මේ 25,000, now 12,000 තමයි ගෙවනවා කියන්නේ, let's not accept this order කියලා. But this is wrong. That's why relevant costing is very important. This raw material cost, let's look at this one by one. May revenue කියන එක, is it an incremental future cash flow? It's an incremental. අපිට වැඩියෙන් ලැබෙන්න යන එකක්. අනාගතේ ලැබෙන එකක්. It's a cash flow. May processing cost එක, is it an incremental future cash flow? Yes. දැනට මේක බිඳුවයි, මේ processing cost එක දැනට බිඳුවයි. 5000කින් වැඩි වෙන්න යනවා. අනාගතයේදී අපි incur කරන්න යනවා. And it's a cash flow. Cash flow තමයි ගෙවන්නේ. This raw material cost, is this an incremental future cash flow? No, right? We have already incurred this. In the future, we are not going to incur any cost with regards to this. And also, therefore, because of that, it's sunk cost. All right. I haven't come to the opportunity cost area එකට ඇවිල්ලා නැහැ. එතකොට මේ තේරෙයි ඔයගලන්ට why since this raw material has no opportunity cost, either it's irrelevant. Either therefore this raw material cost කියන එක, now if we do not include, we will if we include this, we will reject the order. But since we know what relevant cost is and we know that raw material cost, this raw material cost in this specific instance is irrelevant since we have no use of this. එක මේ 20000 raw material තියාගෙන අපිට මොකුත් කරන්න බෑ. ඒ හින්දා මේ cost එක අපි consider කරන්නේ නැහැ. We can decide that okay, there is a relevant profit. We can call this relevant profit of 7,000. Therefore, let's accept the customer order. That's the first question. So this is part 1. This is the part 2. This is the relevant revenue and this is the only relevant cost. Irrelevant cost is the raw material cost. Question 2. Question 2, let me give you another 2 minutes. You all try it. Let's take it from this. All right. I hope you all read, got an understanding. Make a question 2. It says that XYZ company was manufacturing a product X. However, due to the outdated design of the product, the company had to cease its manufacturing. Either may product at may product outdated. Then again, මොකුත් කරගන්න බෑ. Now there's material stock that was purchased at 30,000 a few months ago for product X. Currently, there's no possibility of selling these materials. May 30,000, 32,000 worth material up a stores we have no use of that. If these materials are not used, it requires disposing them at a cost of 4,500. If we make a meme පාවිච්චි කරන්න නැතුව හිටියා නම් හරිද? එහෙම decide කරන්න. If we decide not to use this, ඒක පාවිච්චි කරන්න නැතුව ඉමු නම් decide කරා නම් we have to incur 4,500 rupees to dispose them. Right? Further, company has entered a 5-year rent agreement at the beginning of the current year and the monthly rental is 20,000. Like I said, you commit to a certain cost, like in this instance, there is a legal obligation to pay this monthly rental. In any situation, these kinds of costs would never become relevant because those are unavoidable. Right? So once you read this event, you should understand this cost is unavoidable. Regardless of what decision you make, you have to pay this. 5-year rent given the money. And those are irrelevant. The company is planning to develop a new product Y, and if the product Y is manufactured, the available material stock could be used after these materials are further processed at a cost of 2,000. New product එකක් හදන්න පුළුවන්. Then if they produce it, the material stock could be used after this material further processed by incurring 2,000. So the company has two options. They can either, we are trying to make a decision here. Either put yourself into the manager who is about to make the decision, put yourself into the shoes of the manager who is about to make the decision and try to think. Hari, අපිට options දෙකක් තියෙනවා. එකක් මේ stock එක මේ තියෙන material X එකට අපි පාවිච්චි කරන්න හදපු raw material එක අපි dispose කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒකට එක cost එකක් incur කරනවා. Second option එක අපිට Y කියලා එකක් හදන්න පුළුවන්. අපේ let's say the R&D department plus the production department is saying මේ එකක් හදන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට 2,000 rupees incur කරලා cost එකක් incur කරලා we have to process it. So what shall we decide to do? That's the situation the manager is facing. Now let's make the decision as the manager. First is question again may order එකට යන්කෝ. What is the avoidable cost in relation to the product Y? First one. What is the avoidable cost? May decision එකේ, okay, the avoidable cost would be this 4,500. ඇයි එහෙම කියන්නේ? What is the avoidable cost in the decision to produce Y? අපි y produce කරන්න decide කරනවා y produce කරන්න decide කරා නම් අපිට මේක ඉන්ක කරන්න වෙයිනේ හරිද මේකත් ඉන්ක කරන්න වෙයි මේ 32000 එක it's not an avoidable cost it's actually sunk cost we already purchase කරලා තියෙන මේ 32000 cost එක that's a sunk cost that's also not a relevant cost. But this 4,500 rupees if we decide to produce y we can avoid so this 4,500 will be the avoidable cost in the decision to produce y right in the decision to produce y කියන එක මතක තියාගන්න ඒ වගේ ඒ instance එකේ විතරයි ඒක avoid the second question is what is the unavoidable cost in relation to produce product y May 20,000 එක like I said earlier it's an unavoidable cost right? Regardless of the decision we make we have to pay this 20,000 rent it's unavoidable what is a relevant cost when making the decision right? Then we are getting to the point where the decision which parents should take they have not even given the selling price මේක selling price එකවත් දීලා නැහැ හරිද buy එක sell කරන්න එක sell කරන්න පුළුවන් නේ නැත්නම් හදන්න නැහැ sell කරද්දි ඒක revenue එකත් consider කරන්න පුළුවන් මෙතන ඒත් මේ මට මෙතන පේන let's do this video first we have to incur further processing costs of 2000 right further processing cost of 2000 it's an incremental cost it's a future cost it's a cash flow also we have to incur we can save all right we can save 4,500 units because we can avoid disposing මේක dispose කරන එක avoid කරන්න පුළුවන් හින්දා අපිට අනාගතයේ cash flows 4,500 rupees save වෙනවා so it's a negative cost therefore the net figure would be a cost saving manager මේ y එක විකුණන්න නැහැ කියලා හිතාගෙන decision එක make කරොත්වත් he would be deciding to produce this product right? So if we consider the selling price as well here it would surely be a decision මේක මේ produce කරමු කියලා y produce කරමු කියලා so the answer for question 4 would be yes the company should produce since there is a relevant profit of of 2,500 or you could call it relevant benefit කියලා කියනවා benefit එකක් තියෙනවා 2,500 එකේ the next question let's do this just මාත් එක්කම කරමු okay S&S company came into an agreement දැන්ට මේ අපි කරපු questions දෙකේ මොන හරි questions තියෙනවද ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මොන හරි තේරුම් නැති area එකක් තියෙනවද නැත්නම් මේ මොන හරි අහන්න තියෙනවා නම් අහන්න පුළුවන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට Right. Let's move on. S&S company came into agreement with a building owner on 30th June 2019. As per the agreement, this is regarding sunk cost, I think. Like I said, sunk cost is also a cost which we incurred in the past. Either may examples sunatama. We have now done avoidable costs. Let me touch on the specific fixed cost and opportunity cost later on. Now we are moving on to sunk cost. Sunk cost is irrelevant cost. Irrelevant cost එක definition එකක් ඕනේ නැහැ because whatever cost which is not relevant මේ relevant cost definition එකට වැටෙන්නේ නැති ඕනම cost එකක් is irrelevant. We have talked about committed cost. Committed cost is the unavoidable cost කියලා අපි ඉගෙන ගත්තේ committed cost එක. Non cash flow cost is straightforward. Fixed cost කියන එකයි notional cost එකත් මම කිව්වා. Notional rent, notional depreciation වගේ ඒවා since it's not cash flows, those are irrelevant. Fixed cost is also not an incremental cost. Fixed cost cash flow වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Future cost වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Future එකේ අපි rent ගෙවනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Future එකේ මොන හරි fixed cost එකක් incur කරනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Yes, Ravindu has asked. Yes, committed cost කියන්නේ it's an unavoidable cost. හරිද? Fixed cost එක future එකේ incur කරන්න පුළුවන්, cash flow එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. But fixed cost is not an incremental cost either. Regardless of the decision we make, fixed cost is always going to be constant. Therefore, fixed cost is not an incremental cost. But this specific fixed cost කියන එක it's an incremental cost. Let's get to that point next than future. Question එකක් ඇති. එතකොට ඒක බලමු. Opportunity cost is the most important thing in this area. either opportunity cost එක තමයි මේ හැම example එකෙන්ම අපි හරියටම තේරුම් ගන්න ඕන area එක. Opportunity cost එක let's pay more attention. Okay. So now sunk cost. Sunk cost is a past cost. This question. Question number 3. SNS company came into an agreement with the building owner on 30th June 2019. As per the agreement, rupees 20,000 monthly rent should be paid for a minimum of 1 year. Then එක කියවපු ගමන්ම දන්නවා අපි is committed, we have to pay, it's unavoidable. It further says that the agreement cannot be cancelled. It's not cancelable. By end of 2019, the company thinks whether to construct its own building or to continue the rent. Either then companies try to make a decision. What's the decision? Construct the own building or continue paying rent. Either if you construct the building, there's certain costs. If you continue pay rent, there's a certain cost. Out of those costs, we have to see which costs are relevant and make the decision. What is the sunk cost of the decision? Sunk cost of the decision is now the building එකක් හදද්දී the cost, relevant costs, the cost which is relevant when we are making the building would be the cost of the building. Building එක හදන cost එක තමයි cost of the building එක තමයි relevant cost එක වෙන්නේ. But when we are deciding to continue the rent, either a total rent එකම it's a sunk cost, right? Not a sunk cost, it's an unavoidable cost. Therefore, the entire rent is irrelevant to the decision we make. Either so මේ අපිට දීලා තියෙන information එකෙන් වැඩි කතා කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. We can just go on and find out the total sunk cost of the decision, which is they're asking for the sunk cost. I'm sorry, they're asking for the sunk cost. එතන කියන්න හදන්නේ the difference between sunk cost and unavoidable cost. හරිද? sunk cost එකයි unavoidable cost එකයි තියෙන වෙනස තමයි මෙතන කියන්න හදන්නේ. ඒකයි මේ question එකෙන් it's a learning outcome. All sunk costs, regardless of a cost being sunk costs are unavoidable. Those both are irrelevant when it comes to decision making. But a special feature of sunk cost is it's the cost we incur in the past. Either unavoidable cost it is irrelevant, but we can incur unavoidable costs in the future. අපි rental agreement එක කියනවා නම් ඉදිරි මාස 3කටත් අපි ගෙවනවා කියලා rent එකක්, it's unavoidable. Either therefore it's irrelevant, but it's not a sunk cost. ඒක sunk cost එකක් නෙමෙයි. අපි මේකට ඉස්සර ගෙවපු rent එක විතරයි. The rent which we incurred in the past would be the only sunk cost. හරිද? So in this example, it says that 30th June තමයි පටන් ගත්තේ. Therefore, let's say 1st of July, as per the agreement, 20,000 monthly rent should be paid for minimum of 1 year by the end of 2019. So 6 months. 6 months එකට අපි decision make කරද්දී 6 months එකට rent already ගෙවලා ඉවරයි. The past rent of 20,000 into 6 would be the sunk cost of 120,000. Either I hope you all understood this area. Sunk cost එකයි but unavoidable cost එකේ වෙනස තේරුම් ගත්තා කියලා මම හිතනවා. The next one would be from the same area. මම මේක මම මේ හදාගත්ත question එකක් sunk cost එකේ area එකමයි because sunk cost කියන එක මේ mostly test වෙන්නේ මෙන්න මේ විදියට තමයි මම දන්න විදියට AB Limited are planning on entering into a new market හරිද ඕනම business එකක් before they make a decision let's say investment appraisal decision එකක් make කරන්න ඉස්සරහ පොඩි background work එකක් කරන්න when you are making decision you should first know what you need right ඒක decision එකක් කරමුද නැද්ද කියලා කරන්න ඉස්සරහ හිතන්න ඉස්සරහ we have to know the information අපිට information ඕනේ decision එක make කරන්න හරිද ඒකට අපි පොඩි research එකක් කරන්න ඕනේ හැම වෙලේම හරිද now the question in this the what I'm trying to teach you all in this is aim කරන research එක නැත්නම් background research එක or you call it what do you call it feasibility study feasibility study එකක් කරද්දී ඒ feasibility study එකේ cost එක ඒ decision එකට relevant නැද්ද කියන එක තමයි මේ making මම කියන්න හදන්නේ entering into a new market they had entered research they had done market research by research company which costed them 1 million හරිද අපි මේ අලුත් market එකක් enter වෙන්න අපි decision එකක් make කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා අපිට information ඕනේ එඳ market research එකක් කරන්න company එකකට approach කරා ඒගොල්ලන් අපිට 1 million charge කරා the research company came up with the following results හරිද estimated sales estimated costs so now if we do not consider relevant cost කියන එක consider කරන්න නැතුව අපි decision එකක් make කරනවා නම් we will think all right estimated sales is 10 million estimated cost is 9.5 million therefore and also we have incurred another 1 million කියලා හිතලා we have incurred 1 million no we can't decide that no now since we are having a loss of 500,000 let's not enter this market කියලා let's say they decide what's going to happen in the future they are going to lose this 10 million sales and 950 they will save this 9.5 million cost but they are going to lose this 10 million sales so අනාගතයේදී ඒ ආයතනයට 500,000 එකක් අහිමි වෙනවා if they decide not to produce enter this market therefore that's why relevant cost is important we should know that this 1 million is a sunk cost we have already incurred අපි මේගොල්ලන්ට already ගෙවලා තියෙනවා ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ වැඩේ කරලා තියෙනවා ඒක we can't include into this decision therefore this would be the proper calculation and this would be the relevant profit therefore this business should enter the market හරිද ඒකත් ඔයගොල්ලෝ තේරුම් ගත්තා කියලා මම හිතනවා now let's go into opportunity cost මේකෙන් කියන්නේ like I said avoid the difference between an unavoidable cost and sunk cost man explain karani so when costs are unavoidable they are sunk costs you can take anything from here either මෙන්න මෙතනින් sunk cost හැර මෙන්න මේව වල යන හැම එකක්ම you can take as the answer for this question you can take a notional cost notional rent කියන එකත් irrelevant but it's not a sunk cost fixed cost කියන එකත් irrelevant but it's not a sunk cost non cash flow cost is irrelevant but it's not a sunk cost committed cost like I said unavoidable cost they are not sunk costs but they are irrelevant so this question you can take any of those things opportunity cost what is opportunity cost ඔයගොල්ලන්ට වෙනම මේක කියන්න ඕනේ නැහැ opportunity cost definition එක ඇවිල්ලා next best either it's always the next best alternative foregone as a consequence of a decision right අපි decision එකක් make කරන හින්දා we are foregoing many alternatives 100,000 තියනවා FD එකේ දාන්න හිතුවා plan කරා නම් we are foregoing rental income. අපි මොන හරි building එකක් purchase කරලා let's say 100 million තියනවා, we are putting FD. The costs which we are foregoing would include rental income if we had purchased a building and rented it out, the foregone profit if we had invested that in the business and earned a profit, the foregone return if we had invested in the share market. ඔක්කොම forego වෙනවා if we decide to put 100 million in a 50. But all those things are not opportunity costs. Out of all those things, we should find out what is the best alternative. අපි වැඩියෙන්ම සල්ලි හම්බ කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ අපි කොහොමද දාන්නේ වැඩියෙන්ම හම්බ කරන්න පුළුවන් තැනටනේ. ඒකට පස්සේ එන alternative එකේ cost එක කීයද කියන එක තමයි opportunity cost. Let's say most money we can earn through FD. We are earning 10,000 let's say per month. But if we had invested in share market, we would earn 5,000 a month, and that is the highest next best alternative. Then the opportunity cost is the foregone income through the share market. Either. Now opportunity cost is also a relevant cost when it comes to decision making, because it's a future cash flow, incremental cash flow that we are foregoing. අපිට නැති වෙනවා incremental cash flow එකක් අපිට නැති වෙන එකක්. So it's a cost more. You can also say it's kind of a loss of revenue, loss of contribution, loss of profit කියලා කියන්නත් පුළුවන්. අපිට නැති වෙන දෙයක් opportunity cost. ඒ හින්දා it fits into the definition of relevant cost. අපි define කරපු එකටත් fit වෙනවා incremental cost. අනාගතයේ අපිට නැති වෙන cash flow එකක් තමයි incremental cash flow එකක් තමයි මේ opportunity cost කියන්නේ. හරිද? ඒ definition එකෙත් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට pick කරන්න පුළුවන්. නැත්නම් opportunity cost කියලා ඔයාට වෙනම identify කරලා ඒක එහෙමත් ඔයාට relevant cost කියලා ගන්නත් පුළුවන්. මම කියු විදිහට දෙවිදියටම කරන්න පුළුවන්. හිතන්න පුළුවන්. Let's do this question. හරිද? So I think it's a special order pricing. Yeah. Special order pricing decision එකක්. ඒක order එකක් කොච්චරක් price කරමුද කියලා අපි decide කරන්න යන්න. Let me give you all 2 minutes. I'll try this. ඔයගලන්ට මාව follow කරන්න අමාරු නම් මේ area එකේ you can just say that මට මේක හරියටම තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. පොඩ්ඩක් explain කරන්න පුළුවන්ද ආයේ කියලා. Then I can try and have a conversation with you all. Meeting එකේ you can contact me. මම conversation එකක් වගේ build කරලා ඔයාට මොකක්ද දාන්නේ කියලා බලලා ඊට පස්සේ එකකින් you can take it forward. Okay. Especially if you all are planning to pursue careers in accounting or be a manager, or this is very important area. And this is also I would මම කියන්න ඕනේ economics වල අපි ඉගෙන ගත්තනේ economic cost කියලා. It's the same thing මෙතන තියෙන්නේ the same thing, but there is a small difference. Either the difference is not a conceptual difference, it's a difference of in economics marginal cost කියලා ඉගෙන ගත්ත එකයි මෙතන අපි relevant cost කියලා ඉගෙන ගන්න එකයි ඒකේ තියෙන වෙනස විල්ලා economics වල marginal cost කියන්නේ the total opportunity cost of producing one additional unit. Either total opportunity cost of producing one additional unit. Relevant cost කියලා අපි ගන්නේ the total cost, we are not limiting it to one additional unit. We can take a group of units. Either that's the difference between relevant cost and marginal cost. Economics වල තියෙන marginal cost එකයි relevant cost එකේ වෙනස. Economics එකේ marginal cost කියලා කියන්නේ additional one unit එකට යන opportunity cost. මේකේ වෙන්නේ we are not limiting it to one additional unit. We can take a group of units. So only difference would be when sorry, a specific fixed cost කියන එක තමයි. මේ specific fixed cost කියන economics එකේදී marginal cost එක ඇතුළට යන්නේ නැහැ. Because in economics marginal cost කියන්නේ in all times short term එකෙත් short run එකෙත් long run එකෙත් short run එකේ all costs are variable, only variable cost තමයි vary වෙන්නේ. එතකොට marginal cost is the change in variable cost. Long run එකේ since all costs are variable, එතකොට change වෙන්නේ variable cost තමයි. ඒත් මෙතන specific fixed cost කියන එක තමයි මේ concept දෙකේ වෙනස. හරිද? Because specific fixed cost වෙන්නේ එක unit එක නෙමෙයි. When we are producing a group of units වැඩියෙන් produce කරද්දී incur කරන cost එකක්. Let's say we are accepting මම මේකත් කියන්නම්. We are trying to decide whether to accept a certain customer's order. Either now if we accept this order, we have to rent out a certain machinery. Rent is not a variable cost කියලා තේරෙනවානේ. Rent can't be a variable cost. අපි rent based on number of units නෙමෙයි ගෙවන්නේ. Therefore, when we are renting out that machinery, this rental cost is a fixed cost, but it's a specific fixed cost. Order එක හින්දා in the future we are incurring a cash flow. Therefore, it's a relevant cost. ඒක තමයි specific fixed cost කියන්නේ. General overheads, general fixed costs, production overheads කියලා අපි කරනවා. It would never become a relevant cost. You can write off these things. Unavoidable දැක්ක ගමන්, committed cost දැක්ක ගමන් it's irrelevant. Fixed costs, general overheads irrelevant. Sunk costs irrelevant. එතකොට then it would be more easier to identify the relevant costs. This one. All right. Yeah. The question says that a company has received a special order from a customer to produce 750 units of a customized product. Order to produce 750 units. This special order requires additional variable cost of 20,000. It's an additional variable cost, future incremental cash flow. It's relevant. To produce 1 unit of this product, 2 machine hours are required. To produce 1 unit of this product, we require 2 machine hours. Currently, the machines are working at the full capacity. Machines are full capacity. Then full capacity එකේ වැඩ කරද්දී එතකොටම we are getting a hint. All right, they are working in a full capacity. So in order to produce this order, this customer may order එක accept කරද්දී අපි මොන හරි එකක් we have to forego. No, we are working on full capacity. Now we are getting a new order, so we have to let go of something in order to accept this order. So there even the opportunity cost thought should come to your mind. If the special order is accepted, current output of product A will have to be reduced. So what we are foregoing is the output of product A. A product එක අඩුවෙන් විකුණන්න වෙයි. අඩුවෙන් produce කරන්න වෙයි. and අඩුවෙන් විකුණන්න වෙයි. Since we are accepting this order. For this 1 unit of product A, 1.5 machine hours are required. And the contribution is 30 per unit. Find the opportunity cost of fulfilling the customer's order. Produce 1 unit of this product, 2 machine hours are required. This is right. Now this is question number 4. Question 4. Now the order is for 750 units. If we accept this order, all right, we have to spend how many hours on this order? Per unit 2 hours. In total 1,500 hours we have to spend on this order. All right, for this 1,500 units, the variable cost is 20,000. you might think there can be so many other costs relevant here, but question එකේ දීලා තියෙන එක we have to work only with the question here. හරිද? question එකේ දීලා තියෙන relevant cost විතරයි relevant කියලා හිතාගෙන තමයි අපි වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන්. when it comes to a real context there can be so many relevant costs. හරිද? මේ 1500 එක produce කරන්න 20,000 rupees යනවා in terms of variable cost. Let's say this is variable cost තමයි direct material, direct labor and direct other costs යනවා. හරිද? And also variable production overheads. Either. Now, this is not the only relevant cost. There is opportunity cost also. May 1,500 hours may product අලුත් product එක මේ හදන්න වැය කරන හින්දා we are foregoing every 1.5 hours. For every 1.5 hours 30 rupees. Because every 1.5 hours we can produce 1 unit of A. So for every 1.5 hours we are foregoing 30 rupees. Either. So how many units of A in total? Let's see, we are foregoing 1,500 divided by 1.5. Either. So in this 1,500 hours, if we decide, our decision is to whether to accept or not. If we decide to accept this customer's order, we will be foregoing the production of 1,000 units of A. And for each unit of A, you will be foregoing 30 rupees of contribution. Contribution කියන principle එක ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා කියලා මම හිතනවා, because since fixed cost is irrelevant, the fixed cost is irrelevant, we can't take the profit foregone. We have to take the contribution foregone. Contribution is only the selling price minus variable cost. Since fixed cost is irrelevant when it comes to a decision, regardless of the decision we make, we have to incur this fixed cost. May product A කට back කරන fixed cost එක, this production overhead which we absorb into this product A, we have to incur regardless of accepting this order or not. Therefore, it's irrelevant. We only have to include the contribution foregone. Is the incremental revenue minus the incremental variable cost foregone. මෙච්චරක් අපිට මේ contribution එකක් forego වෙනවා. හරිද? So the total opportunity cost of this decision is only this. මේක තමයි opportunity cost එක. This is the opportunity cost. Answer the first question. පළවෙනි එක opportunity cost. And then what is the minimum price to be charged? So we can take the total relevant cost. අපේ ආයතනයට the total relevant cost is 50,000. So the minimum price to be charged is 50,000. If we are getting anything more than 50,000, it's a benefit for us. So this would be the minimum price. Okay. And yeah. Question number 5, do you include fixed cost into incremental costs? Yes. This is where I said we will be touching on specific fixed costs. Do you include fixed cost into the incremental cost? The answer is yes. Where? When it is a specific fixed cost. Fixed cost. When it's a specific fixed cost, like I said, the renting of the machine, every instances where we include fixed costs into the incremental cost. Okay. What is the main difference between incremental cost and marginal cost? Yeah, ඒක ගැනත් මම කතා කරා. Incremental cost and marginal cost එකේ වෙනස. Marginal cost is for one additional unit of output. incremental cost can be for a group of output, or let's say a range of outputs. Alright, this is the difference between incremental cost and marginal cost. That's all we have from this lesson. We have a question, I think. The additional fixed cost, incremental cost. Yes. Yes. Additional fixed cost is an incremental cost. Okay. We have now two options. Apita cost assignment පටන් ගන්න පුළුවන්. මම මේ ඔයගලන්ට තව group එකේ මේ group වල share කරන්නම් මේ වගේ CA එකේ කරපු questions ටිකක්. Because I didn't look at මම බැලුවේ නැහැ 2020 21 22 past papers බැලුවේ නැහැ. ඒකේ මේක second paper එකේ තියෙනවද කියලා මට sure නැහැ. එහෙම තියෙනවා කියලා confirm වුණා නම් I can share with you all some questions in the group. And answers with for those questions, illustrating how they come, how they arrive kare komada kiyala. If we do not have for the second paper ekේ මේ 20 last year past paper එකේ නැත්තම්, then we can this is enough. First paper එකේ පොඩ්ඩක් test කරයි. හරිද? Right, we have now two options. අපිට එක්ක continue කරන්න පුළුවන් cost assignment එකේ absorption costing එක වෙනකම් කරන්න පුළුවන්. The benefit of doing that is ඔයගලන්ට අවුරුදු සමරන්න පුළුවන් absorption costing හොඳට දන්න පිරිසක් හැටියට. If not, we can wind up now and then we can do the next session cost assignment after the new year. Chat එකේ දාන්න ඔයගලන්ගේ මොකක්ද suggestion එක කියලා. If you are feeling exhausted, we can do it on a different date. රවින්ද අපි මේ cost estimation method එක කරා මේ මුලින්ම කරේ ඒක තමයි මම පෙන්නන්නවාට අපි මෙතන මේ second sheet එකේ how do you send this away? Yeah, this one no. Struggling to send this down. Okay. මෙතන අපි කරා cost estimation techniques කියන එක අපි ඒකේ මේ කිව්වා මේ short term decision making එකට මෙහෙම cost divide වෙනවා කියලා හතරකට. දැන් එහෙම හතරකට තිබ්බද this is to say අපිට short term decision make කරන්න බෑ මේ mix element එකේ cost ටික තියෙද්දි. Either when cost is in semi variable form or step form, we can't. Step form we can include later on, but when it's especially in the semi variable form or mixed form, apita short term decisions make karanna bෑ. I told to think of our BEP calculation එකේ බලන්න total fixed cost variable cost per unit එකක් තියෙන semi variable cost element එකක් නැහැ. ඒ හින්දා we have to separate cost as fixed and variable කියන එක portion එක semi variable cost එකෙන් කඩන්න ඕනේ. ඒ හින්දා අපි මේ ඒ හින්දා තමයි cost estimation techniques පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ. ඒ වගේ techniques අපේ syllabus එකේ හතරක් කොහෙද තිබ්බා. එකෙන් දෙකක් වැදගත් කියලා තිබ්බා. ඒ දෙකම අපි ඉගෙන ගත්තා. You can look at the recording. Hi there, Ravindu. One person has replied saying that we can do it now because anyway we'll be uploading this recording. Yeah, අපි කොහමද recording එක බලනවානේ. It doesn't matter if you all are feeling too tired, you all can leave also. කෙනෙක් දෙන්නෙක් හරි ඉන්න. What we'll do cost assignment එක පටන් ගෙන cost assignment එකේ absorption costing කියලා එකක් කරමු. This is very interesting. Cost assignment කියන එක interesting. It's very important. Either let's start. Why is cost assignment important? අපේ ඉදිරියට මේකට පස්සේ තියෙන SAP එක ඇවිල්ලා process costing, job costing, specifically costing methods කියන එක. Job costing and process costing කියන methods දෙක. හරිද? ඒ දෙකේ foundation එක හැදෙන්නේ මෙතන තමයි. ඒ methods දෙක ඔයාලට තේරුම් ගන්න ඕන හැම දෙයක්ම මේ lesson එකේ තියෙනවා. මේ අපි දැන් හදන්නේ, you can remember the first day I drew a chocolate, no? So I have it, yeah, this chocolate, no? I would say that job account එකක් කියන්නේ let's put it here. මෙන්න මේකට තමයි job account එකක් කියන්නේ. job costing එකේ වෙන්නේ ඕක තමයි. මේ chocolate එක හැදෙන හැටි දන්නවා නම්, either we learned this partially in the first lesson, we are going to learn now මේ කැල්ල තමයි මේ lesson එකේ ඉගෙන ගන්න යන්නේ, and I'm going to little bit talk about how these things come here. ඊට පස්සේ මේ කැල්ල තමයි මෙතන ඉගෙන ගන්න යන්නේ. මේ කැල්ල ඉගෙන ගත්තට පස්සේ අපිට job account එක already we have completed, right? And then we have to learn about how to deal with overheads. එතකොට job costing වල ඕනම integrated accounting system එකේ ඕනම එකක් කරන්න පුළුවන් වාට. If you learn how to deal with overheads also. And the overheads වල පොඩි වෙනස් විදියට වෙන්නේ ඒක. Therefore this is an important lesson. මේක තමයි foundation එක මේ ඉදිරි lesson එකට. So I hope you all understood that why it's important. Let's now start the lesson. All right, we know that in order to value inventory, there are certain problems that we have identified that only certain costs we can trace to a given cost object. Let's take this furniture. මේ මුළු මේකෙම furniture එකක් ගැන තමයි කතා කරන්නේ. හරිද? Let's take a table. Table එකක් හදන්න අපිට වැය වෙන පිරිවැය, we have identified that only some costs we can trace to the table. Table එකේ මෙච්චරක් cost වුණා කියන එක අපි හොයාගන්න ඕනේ. We have established why it's important to find the cost of the table soon as we produce a table, no? Right? It's important. Because of that, we have to find the cost of the table soon as we make the table. Now, there is a practical inability to trace all those costs to the table. We have identified that only the direct costs could be traced. To the cost object. Here we are having the cost object, sorry. Cost object. Cost object. Okay. Only the direct cost we can trace to the cost object. How do we trace? Direct cost වල direct other කියන එක අමතක කරලා දාන්න. හරිද? direct other වැඩිය නැහැ. පාවිච්චි කරන royalty කියන එක තමයි තියෙන්නේ. ඒක royalty per unit එක දන්නව හින්දා it's a fixed, it's contractual, no royalty per unit, we can just trace that. Based on the contract, we know how much is the royalty per unit. The main two items we have is direct material and direct labor. කියන දෙක. මෙතනටත් අපි ගේමු අර let's bring this one because this is the entire thing, the composition of a cost. මේක තමයි අපේ entire discussion එක. හරිද? This entire discussion, composition of cost. මේක තමයි process account එකේ composition එක, මේක තමයි මේ job account එකේ composition එක. Process account එකේ පොඩි practical reasons in that we play around with the output because of certain practical justifications. Hari, direct material, direct labor. How do you trace direct material into the cost object? We want to make this table. What do? We first need material. We need wood. අපි කරන්නේ අපි stores එකට දාන requisition එකක්, give me this many amount of wood in order to produce this table, that is this job. And we send something called a material requisition note. I have that. Where do I have that? Yeah. So we send something like this material requisition note. එක දානවා අපිට මෙච්චරක් ලියෝනේ මෙන්න මේ item එක හදන්න. හරිද? මේ වගේ item එකක් හදන්න. For this cost center or job number. අපි job number එකත් මෙතන දානවා. මේ table එක හදන මේ job එකට තමයි අපිට මේක ඕනේ කියලා. හරිද? එතකොට description rupees. Why is it cost center or job number? Cost center නෙමෙයි මෙතන අපි කතා කරන්නේ. We are talking about the job number. Either cost center ගැන කතා කරමු when we are studying production of this. So when we are putting the job number here, after we produce the table, if we take a sheet and say MRN 1 this much 50,000 worth wood එකක් දාලා තියෙනවා, it's under the heading job 1 2 3 කියන මේ table එක හදන job එක. MRN2 කියන එකත් it would be 20,000 rupees, let's say 2,000 rupees in order for the same job. ඒ වගේ list කරලා ගියා නම් at the end of production we will know the total materials we request we ask from the stores in order for the produce this particular job. Stores එක මේක දෙන්නේ කොහොමද? ඒක ඇවිල්ලා stores ledger account එකෙන් තමයි මේ cost එක එන්නේ. අපි මතකයිනේ stores ledger account එක කරා මේ FIFO method back method එකේ ඒගොල්ලන් materials purchase කරයි. එතකොට receipts column එක update වෙයි in different cost figures. ඊට පස්සේ based on FIFO method or back method ඒගොල්ලන් issue කරයි production department එක. production department එකට මේක එයි based on that method. හරිද? After that what happens, we know at the end of production this is the total materials we use to produce this cost object. ඒක තමයි ඒක materials trace කරන විදිය. labor කොහොමද trace කරන්නේ? Many organizations have something called, all organizations have something called a time sheet. They have to say either daily or weekly what did they allocate their time working for. මොකටද වැඩ කරේ? It looks something like this. Yeah, we have the date and then we have the job number. This is a daily time sheet. We have the job number, what a person worked for, and this and all, start time, finish time, number of hours. So after producing the product, after my table ek haduwata passe, we know based on the timesheet information, direct labor has worked 10 hours for this, and we know we have predetermined fixed rate එකක් මේ ගෙවන්නේ. again per hour hourly rate එකක් නම් hourly rate එක දාලා we can find out 40,000 rupees of direct labor we are paying for this job කියලා අපිට හොයාගන්න පුළුවන්. That's how you trace direct labor. So this would be the prime cost. හරිද? So now we know direct cost ටික trace කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. And this මේ sheet එකට කියන්නේ මේකට production overhead add කරාට පස්සේ කියනවා job sheet කියලා. Cost sheet, job cost sheet කියලා කියනවා. I have one here also. මෙන්න මේ වගේ හදනවා එකක්. හරිද? direct material requisition number amount එක දානවා. direct labor ticket එකේ තියෙන ticket එක some reference number, then hours and the amount, and the overhead we will be learning later. Okay, after that they can find the total cost of the job. Now indirect costs, so this is called cost tracing. These are also questions for the exam. Cost tracing. All right, indirect costs by definition we cannot trace, so we have to deal with it in a different way. වෙනස් විදියකට ඒකත් එක්ක deal කරන්න. That's what this lesson is mainly about. How do we deal with indirect costs, more specifically overhead costs, production overhead costs. Indirect costs අපි ඉගෙන ගත්තනේ දෙකට බෙදෙනවා, production overhead and non production overhead කියලා. Non production overhead we learnt over here, we directly put it to the P&L කියලානේ. It never goes into any cost object. No, this we defined as a non production overhead. It always directly goes to the P&L. Make a production overhead, we use some technique and we put it to the cost object, and when it's sold, P&L, when it's unsold, closing stock. So production overhead එක මේ cost object එකට දාන එක තමයි මේ මෙතනක් තියෙන්නේ. We have two methods, two techniques. එකක් costing එක. Second one is activity based costing, ABC කියලා කියමු. හරිද? So what's happening, මේ method දෙකම same thing තමයි වෙන්නේ. The same thing is happening. The same method is used, same kind of a method is used to bring this figure here, and but the difference is this is a bit more let's say sophisticated. ඒක තමයි අපේ මේ slides වලත් තියෙන්නේ. Absorption costing එකේ වෙන්නේ what we call arbitrary allocation කියන එක. Allocation, all right, I didn't put that here. මේකට කියන්නේ cost tracing කියලා, මේකට කියන්නේ cost allocation කියලා. Cost tracing, if you can directly trace, if you can't directly trace, you allocate those costs. So indirect costs are allocated to the cost object, direct costs are traced into the cost object. Absorption costing and activity based costing is the two methods we have to allocate overhead costs, production overhead costs, out of which the absorption costing method is, it uses an arbitrary allocation method. When arbitrary allocation කියන්නේ මේ overhead costs ඉන්ක වෙන්න බලපාන හරිම හේතුව අපි හොයන්න. හරිද? ඒක ළඟින් යන හේතුවක් හොයාගෙන ඒක මත we allocate overhead costs. Now if we take things like supervisor salary, rent, electricity, the reason we incur them is not because of direct labor hours. No, we know that. I'm assuming you all know this. No, direct labor hours is one of the allocation absorption basis when it comes to absorption cost. We do not absorb the reason of incurring rent, electricity and things like that, or let's say production setups, deliveries, is not based on direct labor hours. No, but still there is a strong relationship between direct labor hours and these costs, because more direct labor hours means we are producing more. We are producing more means we are incurring more of these costs. Okay, but arbitrary කියන වචනේ meaning එකම it's random කියන අදහසක් තමයි දෙන්නේ. හරිද? So when it comes to absorption costing, we use an arbitrary allocation method. We can use that when we do not have enough technology to use ABC costing. Right? No. Absorption costing, we only use arbitrary allocation. Arbitrary, my spellings is wrong here. One is right. Okay, in absorption costing, we only use arbitrary allocation. We do not use the cause and effect allocation. Right? Why do we use this arbitrary allocation when we can use, now since he has brought up the cause and effect allocation, let me tell what happens in activity based costing. In activity based costing, we use something called a cause and effect allocation. A cost එකට බලපාන හරිම හේතුව, ඒ cost එක වැඩි වෙන්න drive කරන හරිම හේතුව හොයාගෙන ඒ driver එක පාවිච්චි කරන තරමට මේ table එක හදන්න ඒ driver එක කොච්චරක් පාවිච්චි කරාද කියලා අපි trace කරා නම් එහෙම trace කරලා overhead cost එක මේකට allocate කරන එකට තමයි not logically, not logically. There is, you can't say 100% not logically. පොඩි connection එකක් තියෙන හින්දා තමයි මේ වගේ basis පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ, but it's not completely logical. හරිද? පොඩි connection එකක් තියෙන හින්දා තමයි මේ වගේ මේ direct labor hours එකයි මේ production overhead cost එකයි connection එකක් ඇති. machine hours එකයි මේකයි පොඩි connection එකක් ඇති. There is some kind of a connection, but it's not, you know, a direct driver of those costs. But in activity based costing, all right, we use a more cause and effect approach where we find out, all right, let's say 100,000 setups, 100,000 inkakara setups where we took 100 setups in the year. So per setup we have taken 1,000 rupees spent. මේ table එක හදන්න we had to do 2 setups. එතකොට 2 setup වල එන cost එක තමයි මෙතනට add වෙන්නේ. ඒක හරියටම cause and effect එක බලනවා. මේකේ arbitrary allocation එකක් තියෙනවා. So it's also important to understand arbitrary allocation එකක් කරන්නේ most of the time when we don't have the technological capacity to trace. Technologically අපිට information systems or cost track කරන්න methods නෑ organization එකේ. එතකොට අපිට arbitrary allocation එකක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. And certain costs we have to allocate in an arbitrary basis. Things like rent, අපිට rent එක drive කරන cost එකක් නෑ. Most of the fixed costs like rent, depreciation, there are no cost drivers. Regardless of using activity based costing or absorption costing, we have to allocate those kinds of costs such as rent and depreciation in an arbitrary way. Cost and effect එක බැහැ. So අපේ යාළුවා කිව්වා වගේ we can say that activity based costing is arbitrary plus cause and effect කියන එක කියන්න පුළුවන්, because there are always certain costs such as rent must be allocated is the word here, in an arbitrary manner. Okay, always certain costs such as rent has to be allocated in an arbitrary manner. So when you are using absorption costing also, certain costs we allocate in an arbitrary manner. I hope you all understand. Now that is like, you know, a good portion of the lesson, but more than this, it's important to understand how we deal with overheads exactly. Budgeted information එක ගැන කතා කරන එක තමයි මෙතන වැදගත්ම එක. Because yeah, so this is done, this මේක ඕනේ නැහැ. Marginal costing system, absorption costing system එක ඕනේ නැහැ. Direct costing කියන්නේ marginal costing system එක. මේක දාලා තියෙන නිකන් definition එකක් විතරයි, එහෙනම් තමයි ඕනේ නැහැ කියන්නේ. This part I'll talk about. This one I did talk about. No. Okay, I'll talk about this also. Costing systems. Make ගැන මම කතා කරන්නම්, it would be best when I'm talking about this. Because that happens when we are doing pricing decisions. Pricing decisions make කරලා තමයි මේ profit non manufacturing cost උත් අපි මේ allocate කරන්නේ. එතකොට මේ price එකට මේ total cost එකට margin එකක් add කරන්න පුළුවන් අපිට markup එකක්. Price එක හොයද්දී this one also I talked about. This one also I did. This also I did. this one I will, yeah. Where is the budgeted information කියලා slide එකක් තියෙනවා. Why use budgeted information? That's the main ඒක තමයි මෙතන තේරුම් ගන්න වැදගත්ම එක. ඒක තේරුණා කියන්නේ overheads කියන එක done. හරි. I will explain all these things. අනිත් slides වල දැක්ක හැම එකක්ම explain කරන්න එක question එකෙන් තුලින්. හරිද? We have already done this question. ඒ හැම slide එකේ තියෙන හැම එකක්ම explain කරන්න through this question. Okay. You all have the question. If you all have not attempted it yet, ඔයගොල්ලෝ පොඩ්ඩක් මේ what do you call format එක හදාගන්න මමත් format එක prepare කරනවා. Okay, through this question you are going to understand the entire thing, how production overheads work, absorption costing එක නිකන් already you know how to do it, production overheads වැඩ කරන හැටි ඔයගොල්ලන්ට හොඳටම තේරෙයි when we are learning at the end of this question. Okay. hari පටන් ගමු. So the first thing we have to divert our attention to is this part. It says estimated overhead cost. අපිට ඕනේ දැන් අපේ product එකේ මේ table එකේ හරිද? This very important. හරිද? මේක හොඳට අහන් ඉන්න. මේ table එකේ actual cost එක හොයාගන්න. Financial reporting purposes. හරිද? double entry system ඔක්කොම එනවා. එහෙනම් හරියටම balance වෙන්න ඕනේ. අපිට ඕනේ හරිම cost එක, actual cost එක හොයාගන්න. But in this question it says the estimated overhead cost. Estimated figures පාවිච්චි කරන්න. ඇයි? My friends, there is a certain time gap between the point we require cost information in order to value our inventories and when we actually receive them. අපිට අපේ inventory value කරන්න production overhead cost information අවශ්‍ය වෙලාවයි actually information ලැබෙන වෙලාව අතර කාල පරතරයක් තියෙනවා. Why? We are making, let's say, a pen first day. අපේ අවුරුද්දේ පළවෙනි දවස. පළවෙනි සතිය. අපි pen 100ක් හැදුවා. We know how much materials we incurred on this. මේ වගේ අපි trace කරනවා. We know how much labor hours we spent on it. Time cost එක හොයාගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒත් අපි දන්නවද අපේ අවුරුද්දේ මුළු අවුරුද්දටම හරිද relevant rent එක ඒ දවස කොච්චරක් වෙයිද කියලා. Let's assume that we do not know. Certain things we might know. Certain things we do not. Do we know how much supervisor salary or supervisor incentives we will pay in that year? Do we know how much we will incur on lighting and heating throughout the year? I may 500,000 එක එකෙන් portion එකක් එන්න ඕනේ මේ මොකද්ද? If let's say actually we end up paying 550,000 for lighting and heating. එතකොට ඒකෙන් portion එකක් එන්න ඕනේනේ මේ table එක ඇතුළට cost එක ඇතුළට. අය lighting and heating incur කරේ මේ table එකත් එක්කනේ. ඒක හදන්නත් එක්කනේ. But do we know how much do we actually incur on lighting and heating in order to include this inside this production overhead? Do we know how much let's say salaries of work management exactly we will pay including incentives? There are so many costs at the beginning of the year itself. It's important. Product cost you have to, because derecognize කරගන්න බෑ. Stores ledger account එක දැක්කනම් ඔයාලට ඔක්ක තේරෙයි. හරිද? Valuing the issuance of inventory කරන්න බෑ product එක හදපු ගමන් කරේ නැත්තම්. 1000 units at 10 100 units at 20 හරිද? දැන් අපි value issue කරන්න යනවා. issue කරද්දී let's say these are pens අපිට අවුරුද්දේ අග මේ actual information, actual overhead information පාවිච්චි කරලා අවුරුද්දේ අග if we find the cost of one pen, then how do we issue these inventories throughout the year? පළවෙනි දවසේ issue කරන්නේ කොහොමද? විකුණන්නේ කොහොමද? ඇයි මේ cost of sales account එක දවසින් දවස අපි adjust කරන්න ඕනේ. We can't do that. And also, how do we charge a price if we do not know how much a product costed on a particular date? If you do not know how much a product costed, because we do not have actual information on that day with regards to production overhead costs, how do we charge a price for those inventories? Likewise, there is a time gap between when we actually require overhead information and when we receive them. Because of that, we are going to work with budgeted information. Right? Making them api karanne api budgeted overheads ඔක්කොම list කරනවා. අපි අවුරුද්ද පටන් ගන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා list කරනවා මේ අවුරුද්දේ this much of rent I'm going to pay. That one would most probably be the same. Rent එක agreement එක. This much of supervisor salaries. This much of insurance. This much of depreciation. අපි estimate කරනවා. Estimate කරලා අපි නිකන්ක list එකක් හදා ගන්නවා. මෙන්න මේ column එක පොඩ්ඩක් imagine කරන්න Excel එකේ just imagine this column and this column all right මේක ඔයා දන්නවනේ මේකේ එන්නේ මොකද්ද කියලා first item එකයි amount එකයිනේ හරිද ඒ වගේ එකක් හදා ගන්නවා how estimating budgeting after that based on that we will calculate a total production overhead budget a total production overhead and then we will absorb them into the inventories that's what's going to happen ඒකට පස්සේ වෙන එක I'll show you all after we do this question I hope ඒ කැලේ තේරුණාද why there is a time gap between when we require information and when we actually receive information and also another reason they say is actual information would change throughout the year but if we use a fixed overhead absorption rate හරිද fixed overhead absorption rate එක පාවිච්චි කරා නම් එතකොට මේ amount එක හැම table එකටම එකම ගානේ එන්නේ so the cost of the table does not fluctuate so the price which is charged as a markup to this cost මේ cost එකට percentage එකක් add කරන්නේ price එකක් add කරන්නේ markup costing margin දන්නවනේ එතකොට ඒකත් ලොකුවට වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ price of the product also won't change that's one reason but the actual practical reason is because of the time gap between when we want information and when we actually receive information ඒක තේරුණා නම් මේ message එකක් දාන්න but that area if you are understood please put me a message yeah it's that slide yeah that's what it says here in this and this is the large fluctuations in overhead because the price would be then constant cost of production would be constant throughout the year second factor yes now we know that prime cost is there all right prime cost එක second factor එක second reason එක මම කියන්නේ prime cost is let's say it's almost similar always if we use actual information throughout the year it would change හරිද rather මේම හිතන්නකෝ if we use budgeted information අපි OR එකක් හද ගන්නවා හරිද OR එකක් හදා එක table එක 2 hours එක table එකක් හදන්න 2 labor hours යනවා OR එක 100යි 100 per hour එතකොට throughout the year අපි හදන හැම table එකම හරිද would include 200 rupees of production overheads the cost would be not fluctuate මේ cost එක fluctuate වෙන්නේ නැහැ similar units වලට production overheads would be similar you understand මේක තේරෙනවද therefore one advantage is the cost would fluctuate throughout the year අපිට similar cost එකක් තමයි යන්නේ හැම product එකක්ම හදන්න the other one is when pricing when you are adding let's say 30% markup to this then it would be what happened the price also would fluctuate those are the two reasons because cost and price shouldn't fluctuate and the actual practical reason because we do not have actual information there's a time gap therefore we are forced to use budgeted information and make a හැම වෙලේම මේ figure එක it's not the actual it's the budgeted so that එතනම ඕගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙන්න ඕනේ මේ හැම එකක්ම budgeted නම් මේ එක table එකක් නම් මේ අවුරුද්ද පුරාවට table 100ක් හැදුවම table 100යි පුටු 100යි හැම එකක් ඇතුලේ තියෙන budgeted information හරිද ඒ budgeted information එක අන්තිමට actual එකකට adjust කරන්න we just have to pass one entry එක double entry එක pass කරපු ගමන් the difference එක we can set off හරිද ඒක තමයි overhead under recovery over recovery ඒකත් මම next session එකේ කරන්නම් මේ session එකේ මේ කැලේ විතරක් කරොත් product මේ allocation එක කරොත් sorry absorption costing එක විතරක් කරමු under recovery over recovery and activity based costing and certain past papers මම දැක්කා ඒ past papers ටික let's do in the next session so let's start with the first one මේකේ process එක two things are there no now absorption costing වල overheads අපිට ඕනේ මේක ඇතුළට දාන්න. We want to allocate overheads into the cost object. there are two methods. One method is මේම total මේ figures දාලා මෙතන total එක අරන් හරිද මේ total එකට overhead absorption basis let's say labor hours කියලා. So it would be this total divided by budgeted labor hours would be the overhead absorption rate. මේක තමයි overhead absorption rate එක වෙන්නේ. හරිද? ඊට පස්සේ we will absorb based on this rate. ඒකට කියන්නේ blanket overhead absorption rate කියලා. That is throughout the whole business. In order to produce all products, we use only one overhead absorption rate. Right? That's even more arbitrary than the alternative. Alternative එක ඇවිල්ලා departmental allocation, departmental overhead absorption rates පාවිච්චි කරනවා. හරිද? ඒක වෙන්නේ for we will separate our entire business into certain department or cost centers. Then we will accumulate costs in those cost centers and we will absorb the costs accumulated in those cost centers into the cost object using separate overhead absorption rates for each cost center. කියන එක තේරුණානේ? Hope you all understood. Let me show that. Here they are saying, talking about firstly a blanket, most simplistic traditional costing system assign indirect cost to cost object using a single overhead absorption rate for the organization as a whole. That would be මේ total එක ගත්තා අපි estimate කරා next year එකට මේකයි cost එක budgeted total cost ගත්තා budgeted activity level එක ගත්තා divide කරා OAR එක ගත්තා OAR එක පාවිච්චි කරා throughout the entire business. ඒක තමයි මෙතන කියන්නේ. You call it a blanket overhead rate or plant wide rate. The second one is this two-stage allocation process. What happens there is we will have the overhead cost accounts. මෙතන තියෙන එක තමයි මේක තියෙන්නේ overhead cost accounts amounts ටිකක් තියෙනවා. ඒවා අපි දානවා cost centers වල. මෙන්න මෙහෙම. එක එක cost centers වලට accumulate කරනවා. හරිද? After that is called primary apportionment. You can either allocate or you can do that using primary apportionment. Allocation එකටයි direct allocation එකටයි primary apportionment එකටයි පොඩි වෙනසක් තියෙනවා. ඒකේ you will understand that when we are doing the question. You can put this into these cost centers in two ways. Either one method is either directly allocate into these cost centers. Certain costs you can't even directly allocate to these cost centers. Those costs you do something called primary apportionment and put into these cost centers. And then you use an OAR and absorb this cost into these overheads that we call firstly we have to reapportion cost centers. I'll explain that. Okay, I'll explain that. The thing is there's a lot because පොඩි areas ටික මේව දාලා නැහැ මේ service cost center කියන්නේ මොකද්ද production cost center කියන්නේ මොකද්ද ඒව නැතුව නිකම් because we have a previous knowledge they are at once going to these questions අපි question එක කරන ගමන් we'll talk about service cost center and reapportionment ගැන කතා කරනවා. So මේ තියෙන හැම එකක්ම overhead cost. There is no second question about it. මේ හැම එකක්ම overhead cost. They have listed down the overhead costs, listed down like this. Either budgeted information. Indirect wages and supervision. It's indirect labor costs. Indirect labor, which is production overhead. So that is, it says for machine centers X and Y and assembly, for each department, they have separately traced these indirect wages and supervision. Indirect and wages and supervision, they have budgeted 6,080,000 and they budget for each department separately. ඒගොල්ලන්ට කියන්න පුළුවන් ඒ හැකියාව තියෙනවා. They are able to trace for each cost center මේ වගේ break up එකක් ඒගොල්ලෝ මේ දීලා තියෙනවා. So these things you can directly allocate. Either this is what you call direct allocation. They have directly traced into each cost center. So indirect wages and supervision amount is 6,080,000. Okay, so it's direct allocation. Okay, direct allocation. Man direct then traced allocation can English වචන දෙයක්. හරිද? What I said was directly traced into the cost center, not to the cost object. Either directly traced to the cost center. Now, direct costs are the costs which could be directly traced to the cost objects. But certain indirect costs you can directly trace to this cost. ඒක English වචනයක් කියන තමයි මම පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ. It's allocation, direct allocation තමයි හරි වචනේ. But you can also say no directly trace to the cost center කියලා. Let's just use direct allocation කියන එක පාවිච්චි කරමු. Okay. So direct allocation කරලා තියෙනවා 1.1 එහෙම කියලා they have directly allocated 1 million 1.5 million 1.1 million and then 1,480,000. Okay. Then indirect materials, same thing. $500,000, 805,000, 5,000. Sorry, I mark මෙතන නැහැ. මෙතන නැහැ. Maintenance කියන එක general factory support කියන්නේ maintenance, material procurement කියන්නේ එක් කරන්නේ stores එකේ. Okay. This is also direct allocation and this is equal to this. Okay, now we are moving on to things which cannot be directly allocated, so we have to primarily apportion them. We call them primary apportionment. Okay, primary apportionment. Direct allocation කියන එක ඉවරයි. Ignore that line in here. Okay, direct allocation කියලා ඉවරයි. Now we are going to move on to primary apportionment. Lighting and heating, 500,000 they have incurred. 500,000 for lighting and heating. Okay, now we have to apportion this lighting and heating 500,000 to each of these departments. For that we need an allocation basis. The allocation bases are given here. We have so many allocation bases. So what would be the most suitable allocation basis to primarily apportion the lighting and heating costs? Lighting and heating කියන එක අපි ගත්තා නම් it would we could say that with the area occupied, if and certain cost center. These are physical locations, no? They are physical locations. They are physical locations. So can building a building. Since they are physical locations, if the area occupied is more, then they will require more lighting and heating. And if the area occupied is less, they would require less lighting and heating. So this one can be taken as the basis. Okay. If I make, so make Arangam center. No. Okay. So this is the total. What's happening? Take a calculating. Okay, this is the total cost on lighting and heating. This is the total area occupied. Out of this total area occupied, 50,000, 10,000 square meters is occupied by X. X කියන machine department එක machine shop එකෙන් තමයි 10,000 මේව කරලා තියෙන්නේ. So that 10,000 would be out of this 50,000 as a proportion 20%. So out of this cost also we have to apportion 20% to X. It's simple. Okay. Now this one, Y has taken 10%, so that would be 10% of this. 10% would mean half of that, 50,000. Then next one is 15,000. Make calculation එක order එක ලස්සනට කරන්න පුළුවන් table එකක් ඇඳලා I think. Let's do it just like this. 30%. 30% of this is 150,000. And then the next one is also 150,000. Then the final one is 5,000, which is equal to this 50,000. Yeah. Make it in ගොඩක් අය තනියම කරගන්න පුළුවන් ඊළඟ කැලි ටික. Let me just fill out කරන්නද? I have the answer here. Property taxes. Undergraduates එක උක් කරන එක it's a waste of time because you all know this already. Property taxes කියන එක, where is that? I have it. 1 million. Either 1 million කියන එක, that also we can allocate based on the area occupied, because larger the property, the more taxes you have to pay. And then that would be 200,000. Sorry, 200,000. Here 100,000. Here how much? 300,000. Here again 300,000. And here 100,000. Okay. The next one is insurance of machinery, 150,000. Insurance 150,000. So more machines you have, the more you have to pay on insurance, right? So that would make this the best basis book value of machinery මේක තමයි proportion එක මේකේ total එක ගත්තා ඒ වගේම 8 million 9 million 10 million 15 million එකෙන් proportion එක ගත්තා so this would make it 80,000 50,000 here 10,000 5,000 and 5,000 all right the next one is depreciation of machinery I will talk more because we might upload this only I'm not talking or we can talk this depreciation of machinery also the best basis is the book value of machinery more book value the more the depreciation and that amounts also would be like this one so let's say this divided by this into this would be right yes. No. Right. The next one is insurance of building. So more insurance has to be paid if the building area is higher. So that would make the building area the best basis 250,000 on this basis that would make it like this like that well, multiplied by okay then the next one is salaries of works management okay insurance salaries of works management salaries කියන එක 800,000 the best way to apportion salaries would be number of employees so you take the total 500 800 9,000 employees are there number of employees so 1,000 කියද්දි there are salaries 800,000 so sorry 800,000 if you do the calculation එක කරා නම් එන්නේ 240,000 here 160,000 here 240,000 here උගලඟුත් කරන්න 80,000 here 80,000 here okay So right now what we have done is we have taken the all overheads which we have budgeted. We have now apportioned into cost centers. And make we have completed around 50% of this. Okay. Now what we have to do is these production cost centers, we know that they directly support the production of the product. Insurance of building or insurance of 150 no 50 25 75 yeah make it a dollar unknown. Right now, like I was saying, we know that these production cost centers, either they directly engage in the production of goods and services. Method accumulate when overhead data, we have a certain argument, logical basis to allocate into the cost of the product. Methaning overhead absorption rate make a product cost it makes sense. But these service cost centers, they do not directly engage in the production of goods and services. Rather, they support the production cost centers in order to do their production activities. Right? Therefore, what we have to do is, since we can't relate these costs accumulated in these cost centers to this product, okay, what we do is we reapportion, or we call it secondary apportionment. We reapportion these costs accumulated here back to these production cost centers based on the level of service these service cost centers receive from these production cost centers. Okay, we reapportion them, and then what we do, we absorb them. Overhead absorption rate we absorb them into the product cost center. Firstly, let's take the totals. These are the totals. Now, because we have understood, by these totals, these two totals, we can't keep this like this. We can't absorb these two totals, so we have to reapportion them into these. This one never changes. Then api total cost එක අරන් තියෙන්නේ මේක වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. So we do reapportionment. Reapportionment එක කරන්න there are three ways. The direct method is the first way. The second method is the reciprocal service method. Hold on. Reciprocal service methods දෙකක් තියෙනවා. Yeah, there are four methods. When it comes to secondary apportionment, there are four methods. The direct method, the elimination method, the repeated distribution method, and the simultaneous equation method කියලා methods හතරක් තියෙනවා. හරිද? ඒ හතරම අපේ මේ අපිට උගන්වලා නැහැ වෙනම. But it's better if you know those four. Okay, let's finish off with this reapportionment, and then we can do this onwards. Make calendar. Let's do next session. Reapportionment එක වෙන්නේ, okay, there are four methods. The direct method, the elimination method, the repeated distribution method, and the simultaneous equation method. This method, this direct method එකට කියන්නේ when there is no reciprocal services. When there is this direct method and the elimination method එකේදී පාවිච්චි වෙන්නේ when there are no only the direct method, I'm sorry, is used when there is no reciprocal services. The other three methods we use when there is reciprocal services. Direct method එකේ වෙන්නේ we assume that these service cost centers only provide services to the production cost centers and they do not provide services to each other. ඒ වගේ අවස්ථාවන් වල we use the direct method. දැන් අපි පාවිච්චි කරන්න යන්නේ මේ question එකේ direct method එක. මේ 1.7 එක අපි assume කරනවා මේගොල්ලෝ stores එක maintenance department එකේ මොකද store කරන්නේ නැහැ කියලා assume කරලා we are going to only reapportion this to the production cost centers. Same with the maintenance department. But in the elimination method we assume that one service cost center provides services to the other, but the other does not provide to this. Let's say stores provides to the maintenance, but the maintenance does not provide to the service. So what we do is we firstly reapportion the stores to the maintenance, and then the maintenance we reapportion to these things. We do not reapportion back to the stores. ඒක තමයි elimination method එකේ වෙන්නේ. ඒ වගේ අවස්ථාවන් වල we can use the elimination method. The repeated distribution method is where there is complete reciprocal services. Can stores with maintenance department එකේ store කරනවා, maintenance department තමයි store එක maintain කරන්නේ. ඒ වගේ අවස්ථාවන් වල we go on repeatedly distribution. ඒක දිගට යයි. මෙයා පාවිච්චි කරන percentage එක මෙයාට දාලා මේ හැමෝටම දානවා. ඊපස්සේ main amount එක it would go on diminishing. Right? You can try that out. If there are percentages now stores කියන එක මේගොල්ලන්ට 50%, 30%, 20 10% නම් ඒගොල්ලෝ 50 30 80 90 100% service එක එම දෙනවා නම් this 1.7 million we allocate 50% here, 30% here, 10% here, 10% here, and this one would have a different proportion, let's say 40 20 20 and 20. So then whatever amount we come up with here we will distribute on that proportion to here. Likewise we will keep on doing till we come to a very small number. එතකොට අන්තිමට ඒ පොඩිම ගානක් රුපියල් දෙකක් ආවට පස්සේ ඒක නිකන් write off කරලා දානවා. Simultaneous equation method is also repeated distribution method එක වෙන exact එකමයි වෙන්නේ. ඒ දිගට එච්චර දිගට කරන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. We can find out simultaneous equation which එතන වෙන්නේ මෙතන නිකන් 1.9 වගේ write off වෙයි. මම එක්ක උගන්නන්න යන්නේ නැහැ ඉතින්. It's not there in our syllabus. Believe. මෙතන නිකන් 1.8 තිබ්බද මෙතනින් 1.9 අඩු වෙයි. ඒකෙන් කෑල්ලක් යයි මෙතනට. ඒවයි කෑල්ලක් යයි මෙතන, කෑල්ලක් යයි මෙතනට. එතකොට මේ difference 100,000 තියෙනවානේ. ඒක මේක reapportion කරද්දි මෙතනින් මේකට යයි. මෙතනින් 100,000 එයි. අය reapportion කරා. Simultaneous equation එක හැදුවට පස්සේ. එතකොට this all will become 0. Okay, I'm not going to teach them all, just know for now there are 4 methods. If you all want, you all can contact me. I can explain how these methods happen, give you all some resources to refer if you all want, but for now let's only focus on the direct method. When do we use the direct method? When service departments only provide services to production cost centers and do not provide services to each other. So now, firstly, let's start off with the stores. Okay. Stores එක reapportion කරන්නේ කොහොමද? It says that estimated total material issues to the production centers as follows. So this is the basis which we should use to reapportion. Stores එකෙන් ගන්න මේගොල්ලෝ material requisition based on number of materials each production cost center requisition. Based on the number of material requisitions made by each production cost center, we can reapportion this cost into the production cost centers. So it would be 8 million equals this amount divided by 8 million multiplied by 4 million by x. These calculations are very simple. Equals this amount divided by 8 million multiplied by 3 million by y equals this amount divided by 8 million multiplied by 1 million by the assembly department. Okay, the total would equal to, there is a small mistake, to the same amount. Okay, the next one would be this 1.8 million. That one, since the maintenance department, they haven't given a basis here. All right, now we have to find a suitable basis out of this information they have given here. Since the maintenance department provides the only we have two bases, we can use either machine hours or direct labor hours, but since direct labor hours is the only basis which is common to both all three production cost centers, the most suitable basis would be direct labor hours. Like I said, it's very arbitrary. Arbitrary it's random. So that would be 3 million. Equals 3 million. No. 3 million divided by 1 million into this. Okay. Small error එකක් තියෙනවා මෙතන. No. Sorry. වැරදිනේ. Yeah. It should be like this. And then this one will be double of this. Okay. How it would be right? No. Why is that? What have I done wrong?
හැනවද
Source වල එකතුව 1.760 නෙමෙයිද?
audible
මේක වැරදිනේ. මේ ගාන වැරදි. මෙතන 10 එකක් එන්නේ. Okay. මේක ෆෝමියුලා දාලා තියෙන හින්දා yeah it's right. හරිනේ? Sorry, direct labor 4 million. Shit. Silly mistake. Okay. So this would come here. This is double of this. Okay. Hari. Now we have the totals of these. And these totals also we can put should be 0. Reapportionment එකත් කරලා ඉවරයි. දැන් මේකට පස්සේ තියෙන ස්ටෙප් එකට කියන්නේ අපි absorption කියලා. Absorption එකේ වෙන්නේ මෙන්න අපි overhead absorption rate එකක් හොයාගෙන අපි ඒක cost object එකට absorb කරනවා. මම පොඩ්ඩක් පෙන්නන්නම් ඒක account එක. Production overhead account එක තියෙන්නේ මෙන්න මේ වගේ. Throughout the year we will go on absorbing. Double entry එක වෙන්නේ WIP account debit. හරිද? මෙන්න මෙතනට දානවා. මේ මම කියවනේ මේ this would be the entire thing කියලා. This WIP account debit over here, this part. And production overhead account credit based on absorption basis. Okay, every month make a dada yana. Every product when actual, let's say, direct labor hours is the basis, when actual hours are being spent, will go on absorbing into the product. Maybe we will go on accumulating the actual costs, actual rent, actual electricity, all the actual figures. At the end, we will have an absorbed amount. And we will have the actual amount of overhead we incurred. May difference එක අපි දානවා P&L එක. Under our absorption කියලා. Okay, so that's what's basically going to happen. We will look at that in the next session. We can end our session now. මොනවායි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් අහන්න පුළුවන්. If you all didn't understand, you all can unmute and ask. Thank you very much for joining.